It happened. We are officially on to day 3 of the draft. Shedeur Sanders did not get selected, and RJ Harvey is all of a sudden arguably a top 12 dynasty running back. I've already been playing around with my dynasty rankings a lot in terms of the rookie rankings on the site. One thing that we're going to need to do, of course, is look at how we're going to be ranking these rookies when it comes to their startup rankings as well. But I don't want to focus too much in on the guys that we already discussed, the guys that went in round 1, right? We don't need to be looking at Ashton Genty. We don't need to be looking at Hampton, Hunter, Tet, Ward, all those players we talked about yesterday. So if you missed the live stream last night, just go ahead. They're still out there. I just pull it up and you can hear me talk about Travis Hunter, Tet, why I think they're immediately dynasty wide receiver ones. But this is where we need to begin to have a conversation. Trevion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins. We actually end up seeing both running backs go inside the top 40 picks. Not only do both running backs go inside the top 40 picks, but they both find spots where they can make an immediate fantasy impact the first year in their NFL careers. Judkins definitely has a clear path, right? Judkins absolutely has no competition whatsoever. Where you do have Ramondre Stevenson for the New England Patriots. But with Henderson, what I think is going to be so interesting is you're looking at a situation in which he could reasonably come in and see 100+ targets this year. Like Henderson walks away with the 38th overall NFL draft capital. Judkins gets 36. So they're essentially back-to-back picks, right? Nothing matters in terms of their NFL draft capital and how we are ranking these guys opposed to each other. How I am viewing them for my dynasty rankings right this second is I'm going to prefer Henderson in dynasty, maybe Judkins in redraft, because again, I think Judkins has probably less competition in the short term. But in the long term, if we're viewing Henderson, he's going to be attached to Drake May and an offense with a much improved coaching staff, with a team that has an improved offensive line. So I think if we're looking at Henderson in PPR formats, he is going to be the guy that I want. If you're playing in a half PPR league, if you're playing in a non-PPR league, I think you can definitely go with Judkins. If you're in a redraft setup, I think you could go with Judkins as well. Of course, we're going to need to go ahead and look at where we are ranking these guys from a startup perspective. I'm not going to be looking at my overall dynasty startup ranks, but we can look at the positional startup ranks. So I have Amari and Hampton as RB5 in our dynasty rankings at the moment. I'm sitting with Henderson and Judkins, both as top 10 running backs in dynasty right this second. I have them RB9 and RB10. Again, I'm probably not going to be ranking them this high in redraft, of course, but you're getting both of them on a fresh slate with that rookie deal. If you're looking historically at what those top 40 picks look like in the NFL draft, expected hit rate is extremely high, especially with running backs that have a strong prospect profile like these two guys. So I am all in. If you wanted to, can everybody spam the chat? If you're here, would you rather have Breece Hall or would you rather have Trevion Henderson? Would you rather have Breece Hall or Quinshon Judkins? It's like, if you really wanted to make an argument to go Henderson over Hall or Judkins over Hall from a dynasty perspective, where, I mean, of course, you actually have Breece coming to the end of his rookie contract, where Henderson and Judkins are going to be just starting right now, I would hear that argument. I'm still going to have Breece ahead of them just because we've actually seen it with Breece. But we do have some people in the chat that are saying that they would prefer Henderson over Hall. So it is something that we can consider. Of course, this is going to be my initial reaction. We're going to be updating the ranks on the site very often. Another thing we're going to be doing on the site in just 1 second is we are going to be doing team reviews. I'm going to be staying up super late tonight reviewing teams. I'm going to be reviewing teams all day tomorrow as well. I definitely want to be trying to help out as many people as I can with their rookie drafts. And I know we are backed up on team reviews, but the reason is I've been waiting for this information so I can try to give you the best information I possibly can when it comes to what to do with your rookie picks. But going down to tier 4, I was talking with the FSC guys about this and how they view the wide receivers in comparison to the tight ends here. Y'all know I'm not a Matthew Golden guy. I think Igbuka was a much better prospect, specifically for fantasy purposes. I think Matthew Golden may profile to be the field stretcher that doesn't necessarily see a ton of target volume underneath and may not necessarily be a great option for our fantasy teams. Where Egbuka, I think that is exactly how he profiles. I think he profiles the play out of the slot a lot and actually can see 8+ targets a game. But with that being said, Golden could reasonably be the wide receiver 1 in his offense immediately. It's a good offense as well with good quarterback play with Jordan Love. Passing volume maybe hasn't been crazy, but they just made the investments into the wide receiver position. So maybe they actually do throw the ball a little bit more this year. Where Egbuka looks like he's going to be the wide receiver 3 in the short term. Maybe Evans has 1 year left. Maybe Evans has 2 years left, but they just re-signed Godwin, and it sounds like Godwin's rehab's just fine. So I'm going to prefer Golden over Egbuka. I'm going to prefer both receivers over the tight ends. I think Loveland gets hurt a little bit based off the Burden pick, because now Loveland may be the 4th option in Chicago. We just simply don't know. Now, going into the players that got drafted today, this is now the interesting spot. Let's look at Superflex. Let's not look at one quarterback. I'm going to have Jackson Dart right here at 12. If you're sitting at the 111, the 110, and you really need a quarterback and you wanted to take Jackson Dart ahead of the tight ends, I'm not going to fault you for it. I'm putting the tight ends ahead of Dart because I'm assuming most people that are looking at the Superflex rankings are playing in the tight end premium. But here, looking at this tier, these are pretty much all guys that get drafted today with RJ Harvey, Caleb Johnson, Jaden Higgins, as well as Luther Burden. I didn't love Harvey as a prospect, but now he gets the NFL draft capital where he goes in round 2, steps into a good offense. Not only does he step into a good offense, but at the same time, your only competition for touches are Audric Estime and Julian McLaughlin. So reasonably, you could be the receiving back in this offense day 1. And at the same time, you could see 15+ touches a game immediately. So I'm completely fine putting RJ Harvey at the 201, even though I didn't have him ranked anywhere close to this before the NFL draft. I think for NFL draft purposes, he is by far and away the biggest winner. And love to see you out here, Cheeky. And yes, sir, I'm excited to see you at the meetup in Austin. The Flock draft week that we're going to have for the Flock League is going to be, I think, August 15th through 18th, something along those. So that's about when the Flock meetup is going to be in Austin. But anyway, my thought process here with Caleb Johnson, I know we already have people saying that Caleb needs to go up, is as it stands today, of course, maybe it ends up being Aaron Rodgers. And if it's Rodgers, maybe we need to change our tune just a bit. Caleb Johnson is in a Mason Rudolph-led offense where he is in a committee with Jaylen Warren. I'm going to assume that Jaylen Warren is the receiving back in this offense. Caleb Johnson is taking the Najee Harris workload. And while, yes, I think it's a safe assumption that Caleb Johnson has more juice than Najee Harris did last year and that Caleb Johnson is probably going to do more with the same amount of touches. If we are going to look at this as a poor offense that's not going to have a ton of trips to the red zone, the high value opportunities may not necessarily be there if he's not the third down back. Now, if you believe that Rodgers is a Pittsburgh Steeler, that the Steelers are going to be able to address the quarterback position and it's not Mason Rudolph, if you wanted to push Caleb Johnson up to 13, you do you. And we'll look at these guys with the overall startup rankings in just 1 second. Looking at Jaden Higgins and Luther Burden. So I obviously had Luther Burden ahead of Jaden Higgins pre-draft. But my thought process here is Corey from the Fantasy Stock Exchange talked me into them not being too different as prospects. Obviously, Luther Burden, you get the early breakout. But at the same time, you do see the stagnant year his junior season. You have all the production coming from the slot. You have a lot of these gimmicky screens. So if we are willing to accept the fact that they are similar prospects, where the Texans prefer Higgins over Burden, I would make an argument that the landing spot in Houston is significantly better than the landing spot in Chicago, where Luther Burden could be the 4th option in the passing offense for Caleb Williams. I don't know. I mean, it's a situation in which you could go back and forth. Again, that's why I rank these guys in tiers on the site. And maybe I do flip these guys. Maybe I do end up putting Luther Burden at 15, at 14. But with how it stands right this second, I think I'm going to have Burden at 16. Going down to our next tier for the mid-second rounders. in Superflex, if you wanted to take Jalen Milroe, I'm not going to fault you for it. Obviously, we are not assuming that he is starting this season. The assumption is that it's going to be Sam Darnold all year long unless things completely go off the rails. But if y'all remember, and I'm sure that some of y'all watching here, I think Cheeky Hobson probably watched this back then. If Cheeky remembers, I drafted a lot of Jalen Hurts whenever he came into the NFL. Not because I was smart with quarterback evaluations. We know, I mean, anybody watching this channel for long enough knows that's not the case. I'm not smart when it comes to quarterback evaluations. But we look at NFL draft capital. We look at their rushing upside, and we do a little simple calculation. Oh, if this guy gets a shot to start, is he going to be startable in fantasy? Jalen Milroe will be startable in fantasy based on what he can do as a rusher. So I'm completely fine looking at him in the mid-second. If you need a quarterback, if you're on a rebuilding team, as the second that Sam Darnold gets benched, Sam Darnold gets injured, Jalen Milroe is a starting quarterback for whatever the reason may be, I think you could arguably sell him for a first. Because I think for fantasy football purposes, even if he's a bad real-life quarterback, I don't know if he's going to be good or bad in real life, he's going to be startable. He could be a low-end quarterback one if he really does go out there and run the ball like crazy. Kyle Williams obviously gets himself a great landing spot. Trey Harris has opportunity to play immediately as well. We're going to have to rank these guys in the startup rankings in just 1 second. And then going down to the end of round 2, we're looking at Cam Scatterbu. We still don't know where he's going to land. Will be a day 3 pick at this point, though. And then we have the tight ends that go in early round 2 with Mason Taylor, Terrence Ferguson. We have the Saints doing whatever the hell the Saints are doing. And then we have these later picks. And then obviously once we get into round 3, we're going to have to wait until tomorrow. But what I want to do real quick is I want to pull up another page here. I want to start ranking these guys for our regular startup rankings. Because if you go to the site right now, you can see the startup rankings as well. So we already talked about where we have Henderson and Judkins. Don't think we need to update that at all. The guys that we possibly do need to move around, Matthew Golden, Igbuka, we already looked at them yesterday. We already looked at the tight ends yesterday. We already looked at Dart yesterday. We need to look at R.J. Harvey, and we need to look at Caleb Johnson. Harvey was going to be incredibly low. Harvey, instant reaction, we put him RB22, but if we think about this realistically, if he's going to be an RB2 in fantasy this season, like if you were looking at redraft leagues right now, where does this dude get drafted? He's going to get drafted probably around RB22 or maybe a little bit before. And if that's a redraft perspective, how are we going to rank him there as a rookie in Dynasty? So I think at the very minimum, we need to move Harvey to the top of this tier. I think I'm going to be moving Caleb Johnson down just a bit, kind of in the same tier. For my instant reaction, I think we put Harvey, Caleb Johnson as mid RB2s in Dynasty. I think these guys such as Josh Jacobs, Kenneth Walker that have a little bit of an extended runway that aren't as old as like the Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara's of the world. We give them the benefit of the doubt and we put them a tier ahead. We've already seen the production. And if we look at CMC, obviously CMC does give you the absolute elite level ceiling. Dante says half these rookies will fail, so I think you're overrating them. Yeah, of course, half the rookies are going to fail, but also half the veterans will fail. Is there 100% certainty that Chuba Hubbard doesn't fall off this year? 100% certainty that Joe Mixon doesn't? 100% certainty that Derrick Henry doesn't? No. And is there any shot that Caleb Johnson's a top 5 running back in Dynasty next offseason? Yes. Is there any shot that Chuba Hubbard's a top 5 running back in Dynasty next offseason? No. So, of course, any of these guys can fail. Travis Hunter can fail. T-Mac can fail. Marvin Harrison Jr. can fail. But we're looking at the range of outcomes, and they still have that high-end range of outcomes. And same thing, these other veterans can't fail. They can fall off any time. So nobody's a guarantee. I think that goes without saying. But looking at Higgins and Luther Burden, these will be rankings that we need to update as well. So, again, I am putting Higgins and Burden back-to-back in our rookie rankings. We have Higgins at wide receiver 38, right ahead of Ricky Pearsall. I think Sutton actually needs to jump Pearsall as well at this point. Sutton, I think you have to view as a clear winner, just given the fact that Denver doesn't make a significant investment into the wide receiver position. I think Luther Burden, I'm going to be having to move behind. some of these names, I'm going to be dropping Pickens down again, just because if we're looking at what happened in Pittsburgh, Pickens doesn't get traded himself. It looks like he could be the wide receiver 2 for Mason Rudolph at this point. I think I'd rather maybe hit the reset button and hope that we are going to be able to get like the wide receiver 2 for CJ Stroud instead here. So when we're looking at Jaden Higgins, Luther Burden, my instant gut reaction is low in wide receiver 3, high in wide receiver 4. Again, I think you have a wide range of outcomes with these players, because it wouldn't be surprising whatsoever if Luther Burden comes out and he's he's unstartable. There's not a single week where you can put him in your lineup this year. That Rome, DJ Moore, Loveland are the top 3 target earners with this team. That is in the range of outcomes. And if that happens, how is he valued next year? Is he valued like Keon Coleman? Which I know maybe sounds crazy right now, but Keon Coleman was a round 1 pick last season. So I honestly think that these wide receivers, I may end up moving them down just a bit. We'll see. Jalen Milroe, obviously, we need to discuss here. Where did we have Milroe before this? We had Milroe 28. I'd probably rather have A-Rich. I think we obviously have to move Shedeur down. I think I'd rather have like Carr, Russ, Daniel Jones over Shedeur at this point. I'd rather have Stafford over Milroe. I think we're going to put Jalen Milroe about quarterback 30. Again, it is in the range of outcomes that Jalen Milroe never starts more than 3 games in his NFL career. I mean, he's a round 3 pick, but the thought process is if we're looking at quarterbacks in this range, such as like Milroe, Daniel Jones, Russ, Derek Carr, we know that these quarterbacks here are more likely to start than Jalen Milroe over the next 3 seasons. But even if Russell Wilson starts, even if Daniel Jones starts, even if Derek Carr starts, you can't get them in your starting lineup. Like even in a super flex league, you're not putting them in. Where Milroe, you may have that possibility. Going over and looking at the Kyle Williams, Trey Harris's of the world, I think that we're extremely low with them in our rankings. So we're going to have to move them up dramatically. Yeah, Kyle Williams at this point, I would rather have over Jawan Jennings. I mean, Quentin Johnson needs to drop as well, given the Trey Harris edition. But anyway, I'd rather have Kyle Williams over Keon. I'd maybe rather have him over Debo Pittman. I think we're putting Kyle Williams about wide receiver 46 in Dynasty. I'd still rather have the veterans that we know are going to be able to help a contending team, such as Devontae Adams, Mike Evans over him relatively easily. And then when we're looking at Trey Harris, the clear wide receiver 2 in his offense, possibly a low volume passing attack as well. Instant gut reaction, I probably prefer Ridley and Myers over him. Can y'all please spam the chat? Would you rather have Trey Harris or Calvin Ridley? Trey Harris or Calvin Ridley? Preston says, do you think Igbuka is in the same tier as Burden? No, I think Igbuka is a better prospect, arguably a better landing spot. Yeah, I think Igbuka is a tier ahead of Burden. I would never consider taking Burden ahead of Igbuka in a rookie draft, startup draft, whatever it is. We have Harris, Ridley, Ridley, Harris. Adam says Trey Harris feels like Xavier Lee gets me. I mean, Trey Harris, super old prospect. I mean, it looks like people are split on the two. Again, my thing with Ridley is you have Ward coming in. Not only do you have Ward coming in, but at the same time, you're in a spot in which you don't really have the Titans adding a bunch at wide receiver this offseason. Like, let's just remind ourselves exactly what the capital looks like for these guys. Trey Harris was pick 55, kind of like a Marvin Mims range. Jack Beck, 58. It's going to be another player we need to update. I'd rather have him over Leggett at this point. Obviously, these players need to move down below them. I think Jack Beck looks like a wide receiver 5 in Dynasty. I'd rather have him over Leggett. Him versus Jacoby Myers. The Myers production has been fine. I'd prefer Trey Harris over him. I think they're both wide receiver 5s in Dynasty. And clearly, if you're rebuilding, you would way rather have these dudes over Diggs, Myers, Ridley, Jennings. It just comes down to if you are that contending team, maybe the veteran production does make a little more sense there. Let's see if there are any other relevant players that we really need to discuss. And then I see somebody asking what's with the Pickens hate. I think we have George Pickens ranked as a low-end wide receiver 3 in Dynasty. I can address that. Just one second. Pat Bryant gets himself a decent little landing spot. Obviously, the Denver Broncos was going to be a premium spot for these guys. I did not have Pat Bryant anywhere close to this. I think we even need to add him in our ranks. If we're looking at where he is going to end up getting ranked, it is going to be solely based off the landing spot he finds. Like Ellick, I think was, y'all know I wasn't a fan of Ellick's overall draft profile. We talked about that right at the beginning of the offseason. But I think I would prefer him over Ellick at this point. You get the draft capital. Not only do you get the capital, but you get a decent little landing spot as well. McMillan shows something, but again, McMillan's the wide receiver 4 in his own offense at this point. Quentin Johnston takes a significant step forward in year 2, but now you have to compete with another round 2 wide receiver. I think we're going to put him here as a low-end wide receiver 5. Let's see. Jalen Noel, we have to discuss. Jalen Noel, I'd rather have over McMillan. I think he's a better prospect than Bryant. Bryant has a much better landing spot. Draft capital is extremely similar between the two players. Let me just make sure I have these guys in a respectable range and a range that maybe makes sense with our rookie rankings as well. Let's go ahead. And I'll show y'all real quick just to make sure y'all know how you're looking at the right rankings on the site. I'd rather have Jack Beck. I think we put Pat Bryant about our wide receiver 11. Can y'all spam the chat? Would you rather have Pat Bryant, who goes a few picks before Jalen Noel, and gets a much better landing spot with the Broncos in comparison to Noel, where he does have to compete now with both Nico Collins as well as Jaden Higgins with the Texans, and you have Christian Kirk there? So would you rather have Bryant or Noel? Please let me know. Brendan says, hey, now let's show Isaac Tesla some love. Yeah, what's actually funny is we don't have Isaac Tesla loaded into the site. I had to shoot over a message to one of the developers tonight saying like, hey, can we get Isaac Tesla added in so I can rank him? But Isaac Tesla may not be ranked until tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. Dylan says, honestly, Bryant. Bryant. Jalen. Bryant. I think they're close. I have them back to back. It will be something that we have to. I just haven't looked at the Pat Bryant profile much at all. Again, I wasn't expecting us to really need to. Looking at the other guys that we maybe need to talk about, Savion Williams, don't care. Milroe, we already discussed. Dylan Gabriel. Is Dylan Gabriel even in our quarterback rankings? He's not. Obviously, I'll put him ahead of Ewers and Will Howard at this point. I probably still going to have Shedeur ahead of him. Shedur's my QB5 now in my rookie rankings, which is hilarious to say. But at this point, Shedeur most likely never starts a game in the NFL outside of maybe an injury fill-in. But yeah, we'll add in Dylan Gabriel as our QB6, but again, not somebody that you're interested in whatsoever, even if he is on a relatively empty depth chart. But what I want to do is I want to look at some of these teams that have been waiting for a long time and start mapping out some of these rookie draft plans. So I'm going to go in order unless somebody gives me a name where they submitted a team review and they want me to look at their team right now. If you've submitted a team review and it's sitting here waiting, please let me know if you're in this live stream. I'd be super happy to take a look at your team right now. We can actually come up with some real plans to either trade your rookie picks, hold on to your rookie picks, or exactly what you're going to be doing in your rookie draft. And I was talking about this in the FSE stream, but how many players can y'all think of have had the fall like Shedeur Sanders? The only name that they gave me that I agreed with. I know some names in the chat threw out like Johnny Manziel, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Manziel was a round 1 pick. The only name that I got that I agreed with was Malik Willis. And even in that, it's not like Malik Willis had the national attention. It was just like the NFL draft community thought he was going to be a round 1 pick, and he ended up being a round 3 pick. Yeah, that was the only name that we could reasonably come up with. But the thing with Sanders is you have the national attention on top of it that in a way Malik Willis didn't have. Somebody threw out the name Will Levis, but I was like, Will Levis was a top 40 pick. So like, obviously there's a big difference between going at the top of the 2nd round versus not going in the first 100 picks. And we don't even know where he's going to end up. Somebody says Troy Smith. The thing with Troy Smith is it's just before my time. I have no idea. BZD says, you think Hunter is worth the 102 in a league with IDPs have boosted points? I think you can take him 101 if you wanted to there. Dante says, I'm going to laugh if Sanders goes off and proves them all wrong. The thing with Sanders, and I talked about this in that live stream, is, yeah, I think that he must have just absolutely botched the interviews to the point where front offices and coaching staffs went, it is a net negative to have this guy in our locker room. Maybe Shedeur Sanders, maybe the Cleveland Browns know, and they think that Shedeur Sanders is better than Dylan Gabriel. Like if you sat there and asked the Browns general manager, who do you think is a better quarterback, Shedeur Sanders or Dylan Gabriel? Maybe he says Shedeur Sanders. But frankly, does it matter if he also thinks Shedeur Sanders is going to make other players on his team worse? Because he's going to be a locker room problem, a way that Dylan Gabriel won't. So, yeah, Shedeur Sanders, like I said, I have him like off the board entirely at this point. We'll see where he ends up. But Kingdom says Sanders is the Mason Dodd of quarterbacks, misunderstood as geniuses often are. Agreed. NB says I prefer Hall over Henderson Judkins. I'm there with you, but I think they're the same tier. But we are going to go ahead, and we had nobody in the chat say that they had a team review waiting. So we are going to look at our first team from Aggro Craig, and we're going to go through and we're going to look at team reviews for the next few hours. I know it's midnight Eastern. I'm on the West Coast, so I'm going to stay up a bit, but if y'all got to bounce, no ill will. I completely understand. But your boy wants to come up with some rookie draft plans, and I want to start trying to get these sent over as soon as possible because I know a lot of people have their rookie drafts. Like my rookie draft start tomorrow. So I want to make sure that we are good to go. So we just got the league ID from Aggro Craig. We're going to go ahead. We're going to throw this in so we can look at his team and come up with some rookie draft plans. We are Valley FC. Holy moly. So this is a team review that's very, very tough to start off with. First off, Aggro Craig, I'm really sorry that it's taken us this long to look at your team. Again, I know you submitted screenshots initially. I wanted to go ahead. I wanted to look at the team with the league analyzer so I get a better sense of the overall situation with your league settings. And the reason being is if you pull up this team and you look at the sleeper screenshot, he has Josh Allen, Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan, Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Brock Bowers, CeeDee Lamb, Nico Collins. So I'm going to be completely honest with you, my friend. I looked at this and went, okay, he submitted a 3-team league. He's playing with his wife and his 2-year-old son. So I wanted to make sure that the league ID was correct so we could go ahead and we could see, actually, this is a 10-team league. And this is the best dynasty team that has ever been submitted by a country mile. And I'm going to have an impossible time to tell you to do anything here, to be completely honest. I hooked you up with a free trade question and a free start sit question as well. You're saying, hey, Mason, thanks so much for the review. Just came off my second championship in 4 years and looking to keep the crown. What moves do you think I should be making to make my bench deep? Thoughts on moving off some of the first round picks to swap for other years? Thank you. And yeah, this is, I have never seen on my live stream, on a domain live stream, on a LAN live stream, on an FSE live stream, I have never seen a league analyzer look anything remotely like this. You have a team that there is absolutely nothing you could, like, it's, what could I possibly say? You have the number 1 quarterback in Dynasty. You have the number 1 running back, the number 2 running back. You're adding in the number 3 running back with Ashton Genty. We have the RB8. We have 5 RB1s, and we have the wide receiver 1, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. That is a total of 7 of the top 10 receivers. And then we have Brock Bowers. The number 1 thing that I'm going to need you to do is I'm going to need you to quit your day job. I'm going to need you to start a YouTube channel. And I'm going to need you to start making buy and sell recommendations. And I will edit your videos for you. Because this is the question that you have to ask yourself if you're in a league like this. Why would you stay? Like, legit, and I know it sounds horrible, but if you're this team here where Braylon Allen's your RB1, Javante's your RB2, Jalen McMillan's your wide receiver 2. If I'm this team, why would I ever pay my league dues? I would leave this league immediately. So like I said, I hooked you up with a free trade question, a free start sit question. I wish I had a lot for you here. There is nothing I could possibly say. Nothing. Take Ashton Genty at 1. At 3, take, I mean, we can go ahead and we can pull up the ranks, right? This is going to be let me put mine. It's a 1 quarterback league, so we're going to ignore the quarterbacks. And obviously, you could just go ahead and pull up the 1 quarterback rankings, but I'm going to be lazy. At 1, you take Ashton Genty. At 3, you take your favorite between Hampton, Hunter, McMillan. At 5, you take one of the top 4 players if they fell, or you go your favorite between Trevion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins. Or at 6, you take both Trevion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins. That knocks out the first 4 picks. If you go that route, you have another top running back. You arguably have another top 10 RB. And another wide receiver 1. So don't focus in on making trades with this league. You need to focus in on how can you get your league mates to continue to pay their league dues, to continue to have fun in this league. Because the second that they throw the league into a league analyzer and realize that you have more value than everybody else in this league combined. All right, that's maybe a little bit of an exaggeration. You have more value than the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th teams in this league combined. And they're probably dunce. So, I wish I had more for you. I hooked you up with a free trade question, a free start sit question. I wish I had a medal to send you, because I legitimately have never seen anything quite like that. But again, congrats on winning your league for the next decade. And clearly you need to start a YouTube channel. There's nothing else I can say. But let's move over and let's check out this team for Josh. It says, thanks for everything. I reset a couple years ago, and this is the year I'm hoping to win it all and start my dynasty. Any advice would be more than welcome. So Josh, sitting here with the 2nd spot, Mighty Marvin Power Rangers. And what picks do we have? Okay, so the picks didn't load with the league analyzer. However, I did reach out to Josh on the site asking him what his picks are. He has the 106, the 110, the 206, the 306, and the 309. Okay, so let's remember this, ladies and gentlemen. He has the 106 and the 110 are his 2 first rounders. This is going to be a Superflex 10-team start 12 half PPR format. So I think I've talked about this in the past, but if you are playing in a 10-team league, absolutely love the idea of making it a start 12 format. Just because 10-team league in general going to be a little bit more shallow than what you're going to see in a 12-teamer, right? And then if you make it a start 12, you have 120 starters across the league, which is about equivalent to a 12-team start 10, which is the standard Dynasty format. There is going to be a change, however, and that is you are starting 10 running back / wide receivers. Or if you take away the tight end, you're starting 9 running backs / wide receivers. So quarterbacks is actually going to make up a smaller percentage of your starting lineup. Plus, with it being a 10-team league, quarterback will be a more replaceable position as well. So quarterback, we don't need to value as much as a regular Superflex league. Wide receiver, running back depth, probably going to be a little bit more important as well. It's a non-tight end premium half PPR league. So with that in mind, quarterback, we're sitting with Love, Purdy, Anthony Richardson, and we have Daniel Jones as well. So we have 3 guaranteed starting quarterbacks. 10-team league, am I excited about this quarterback room? Probably not, right? As I think you say that Jordan Love, Brock Purdy are both probably QB2s in a 10-team format. I don't think either's a top 10 quarterback. So it's like we have 2 quarterback 2s, and then we have the Colts starting quarterback. So not great, but specifically because this is a format where we're starting 9 combined running backs and receivers, I'm not super concerned about that. I'm going over and looking at Bijan, Chuba Hubbard as our top 2 RBs. I actually like Ted McMillan going to Carolina to maybe open things up for Chuba Hubbard and improve this offense overall. So I think it's a completely fine running back room. Again, I think you kind of want to be building around depth. Going back, looking at our picks, we have the 106 as well as the 110. So with that in mind, if we are in a spot where Cam Ward does fall to us at 6, it is kind of difficult, right? Because if you were in a 12-team Superflex league and you have Cam Ward versus Trevion Henderson or Quinshon Judkins, I would say you're taking Cam Ward every day of the week. I 100% want Cam Ward there. However, because this is a very weird format where it's a 10-team Superflex league where you have to start to combine 9 running backs and receivers, I actually think I may prefer Henderson over Ward specifically for your format as well as your team. Now, the difficulty with this is our second rookie pick is going to be pick 10. That would be too early for Jackson Dart in this format for sure. So at pick 10, we're going to be looking at one of the tight ends with either Loveland or Warren, or if we get a receiver falling with either Matthew Golden or Igbuka. Obviously, if somebody like Judkins falls, you would take him immediately, but that's probably not going to happen. But you're probably not going to have a quarterback around you with pick 10 in particular. So if you wanted to take Cam Ward, if Cam Ward fell to you at the 106, I'm not going to fault you for it whatsoever. But heading over and looking at the receivers, we have Chase, London, JSN, Harrison, Worthy, Reed, Shakir, Downs. So we have a bunch of startable names, and this is actually going to be extremely important in a start 12 format. Because again, we want to go back to you have to start 9 combined running backs and receivers here. So we have Bijan, Chuba, then Chase, London, JSN, Harrison, Worthy, Jaden Reed, Khalil Shakir, and Josh Downs. So we have plenty of depth. You add in another running back like Trevion Henderson, you're sitting pretty when it comes to contending this next season. Like this kind of wide receiver room, if you were playing in, say, a 12-team start 8 league, I'd be jumping up and down saying, oh my gosh, you got to sell Jaden Reed, package him with Brock Purdy and go get the best quarterback you can. Package Xavier Worthy with Jordan Love and go get the best quarterback you can. But specifically for your format with the way that you are set up, this is almost exactly ideal for you. Especially knowing at the 106, you're not going to be looking at a receiver. Maybe if your league mates are all terrified of Travis Hunter playing on the defensive side of the ball and Hunter somehow, some way falls to you at 6, cool. But I almost said Terry McLaurin. Ted McMillan isn't falling to us at 6, of course. That would be the only guy. I'm not taking Matthew Golden over either of the running backs. So I think you kind of have a clear spot to take Trevion Henderson or Judkins. And one thing that we could look to do with pick 10 is say if we wanted to pivot over to a contending build and we're not super excited about taking Loveland or Tyler Warren, where we already have Mark Andrews and Dalton Kincaid, we could possibly take pick 10 and try to package that together with one of our quarterbacks to go get an upgrade that way. Big thing is we're going to have to find a team that's looking to rebuild, right? So going down and looking at this roster, this team definitely is a rebuilding team, but the issue is going to be they have Russ, Jameis, Deshaun as their quarterback. So it's a spot in which there's nobody that they could give us. If you wanted to trade for Achane, you can. And of course, if you can get a decent price point, like if you really wanted to push to contend, if you wanted to sell the 110 for Joe Mixon and Alvin Kamara, maybe that's not the worst move in the world. Like, let me pull up the trade calculator and get a sense of how far off that would be. 110, we get Mixon and Kamara. How bad is this? It says a fair trade. I mean, if I was a rebuilding team, I'd 100% consider that. Maybe you can squeeze out another startable player like Devontae Adams. I know that you said you have a third here as well. If we add in Adams, it's saying that that deal is most likely not going to get done again, but I think we should just send out an insulting offer to by far and away the worst team in the league and see what they are willing to accept. We have a second. You said that second rounder is the 206. So it's really the 204 in a 12-team format. So let's just call it a mid-second. So if we're sending the 110 in a mid-second for Mixon, Adams, Kamara, if you wanted to push in to win right now, then you can assume that at least two of these players will be usable this next season in a league where depth is required a ton. Still with that 106, you're bringing in a significant piece, whether that's Ward, Judkins, or Henderson. So honestly, I think that is what I would look to do, and I'd look to push into contend, especially with the wide receiver depth that we have right now. I think you're chilling as is, to be honest. But again, really do appreciate you, and I think you are in a great spot, to be completely honest. Really, there's only that one absolute juggernaut in this league, but I mean, this team at the very bottom, if we can try to make that trade with them, or maybe this other team near the bottom, this team has Barkley and CMC. They're going to look to contend, right? This team has DeAndre Swift, Baker, Dak. Maybe the issue is in a 10-team league. Most people are going to prefer. I mean, most people are going to think that they're contending. I think you have to target the absolute dumpster fire at the very bottom. But even if you just stay as is, stick and pick the best player, stick and pick one of the wide receivers, especially if they fell, I think you're going to be just fine, specifically because you're built around that wide receiver depth in a league where that's by far and away the most important thing. But let's go ahead and let's check out this team for Mike. Says, just picked up this orphan, need to rebuild. How should we attack the draft? So team name here is Burt Macklin. We are 9th in the league analyzer, but teams 6 through 9 are all about the same. There are just tiers in this league, right? You got the top 2 teams, teams 3 through 5, and then you have teams 6 through 9. And we are in that third tier. And looking at it, it is a Superflex 10-team start 10 format. So depth isn't going to be the most important thing in the world. And thank God, because we don't really have much depth. Now, my default is typically, oh, okay, we're at the very bottom of the league analyzer. We probably want to be a rebuilding team. The difficulty with this is if you go ahead and if you look at the flexibility that you have to rebuild, it's almost all gone. And the reason being is while we have a 2026 first, it's not ours. It's this team's. Now, good news is this team doesn't have a ton of dynasty value. They don't have a lot of flexibility. They have no QB3. Their top receivers are Evans, Debo, Ridley. Like, this team could go off the rails. That's very much a possibility. But we are not incentivized to try to earn the 101, to try to have a bad team and rebuild, push to 2026, just simply because we don't have any control over our own rookie pick itself. So if we're looking at what we are doing with the 106 through 109 in that instance, I am wanting to take players that could give us the opportunity to actually contend this season. Well, of course, not just trading these players for straight up veterans, because we are not that juggernaut team. I don't necessarily know if we can afford that. So looking at quarterback, we're sitting with Bo Nix, Brock Purdy, and we have no QB3. Now, what's interesting is this is going to be a 10-team league. So while if you look at my rankings, I have Cam Ward as the 5th player in this class. I have him as the 105. There is a non-0% chance in a 10-team league that he ends up falling to pick 6. The reason being is we can look at this team with the 105. Their RB2 is Rachaad White. Their top quarterbacks are Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts. They have Geno Smith as QB3. Would it be the most surprising thing in the world if this contending team ended up pulling the trigger on Trevion Henderson over Ward? I don't think so. This team with the 101s taking Genty. What team is sitting with the 104? That's going to be super important to check out. This team with the 103 actually could be the wild card here. If they wanted to go with Ward, I'm not going to fault them whatsoever. They have Daniel Jones as their 3rd quarterback. But again, they could go Hampton. They could go Hunter. They could go McMillan. The team with the 4th pick has May, Goff, Stafford. So actually, Cam Ward may end up going where we don't get a shot with him at 6. And if we don't get a shot with him at 6, completely fine, because you can go with your favorite player between Trevion Henderson and Judkins. And then looking at the 108, 109, it's a spot where I am maybe not super excited. Reason being is we would be looking to add in like Matthew Golden as well as Igbuka. I don't want to pull the trigger on the tight ends there. I mean, this is going to be like a quarter point tight end premium format, but that's not really going to be moving the needle nearly enough. Obviously, if you were to get Judkins or Henderson falling to you, you're over the moon. But if we add in, say, Matthew Golden and Igbuka to this team with the 108, 109, does that put us in a position where after adding Henderson, Igbuka, Matthew Golden, all of a sudden we are a contending team? No. I mean, we have a very nice core for the future, but I don't necessarily know if we are a contender. Going ahead, looking at the 207, it's a 10-team format, so 207 is really going to be pick 15. Pick 15, you're looking at the range of maybe Dart falls to you since it's a 10-team league. If Dart fell, that'd be great. If not, going to be like RJ Harvey, Caleb Johnson, neither probably fall. You're probably looking at like Jaden Higgins. And if you're looking at Jaden Higgins, again, going right back to this, does adding Igbuka, Golden, Jaden Higgins make you a contender in this league? No. 301's going to be pick 21 here. If you're looking at like pick 21, 23, maybe you're bringing in like Mason Taylor, Terrence Ferguson. Adding in those 2 tight ends, does it make you a contender? No. So I think you're in a spot where just sticking and picking the best players in your rookie draft, you're still not going to be a good enough team with this orphan to turn this around to a contending roster this year. You are in a very compromising position because we don't own our own future first to be able to go out there and try to pivot off to 2026 value and just earn the 101 next season. So there is an argument to be made for a multitude of reasons to approach this team at the very bottom where they have Evans, they have Debo, they have Ridley as their top wide receivers. Like maybe this team, they have Stroud and Darnold and Will Levis as their quarterbacks and a 10-teamer. Maybe this team looks at their roster and they go, okay, I need a rebuild. I don't have the juice. If you can shoot them a message and convince them to start selling off some of these veterans, where you give them like pick 15, you bring in a Mike Evans. So you essentially flop, say, Jaden Higgins for Mike Evans. I think that would be a super interesting move if we can start selling off some of these assets specifically to this roster, because we have their 2026 first. And if we can try to convince them that they need to pivot over, they need to start stacking future value with picks, then inherently that makes that first round pick a little bit earlier, while at the same time giving us a real shot to contend where we don't have our own 2026 first. So that's what we are incentivized to do. Another possibility for trades is, again, we're going to be probably stuck taking 2 wide receivers with the 108, 109. I think if you can try to trade inside that tier of getting inside the top 7 picks, like I think you want a top 7 pick. this year. Let's try to find, and that's the issue. You're at 108, 109. Let's go ahead and let's try to find the 107. This team has the 107. What is a reasonable deal that we could try to get from pick 8 to pick 7? Like, reasonably, would I rather have Matthew Golden on this team and Jaden Higgins, or would I rather have Quinshon Judkins? I'd rather have Judkins. Like, I would right now go ahead, trade the 108 and your mid-second for the 107. I'd be complete. It says you slightly lose, but I think after today, with how the rankings are stacking up, I'd prefer the 107 here. Unless you want to wait until you're actually on the clock and you actually see how your exact draft is going. But if we can make some of these pivots where you send, say, the 108s, you move up one pick, maybe the 109, we try to get up to the 105 and you end up getting like a Cam Ward. I think Cam Ward can actually help you contend while at the same time giving you that future value. So if we can go ahead and find that team with pick 5 and see what exactly they would possibly be looking to swap for. That team has the 101. This team has the 105. The difficulty trading with this team is obviously this is an extremely strong roster. They don't have a future first. If we could try to send them, say, the 109, it would probably have to be as like the 108, the 207. God, I don't know if you have enough firepower to move up to the 105. What tight end do they have? They have Kincaid, Pitts. If they think that they really need a tight ends, and we could maybe send them Goddard, the 108, and move up to the 105, and effectively move like Matthew Golden and Dallas Goedert to go get Cam Ward, I think that'd be a very interesting move. But if I were you, I think specifically for your roster in your league settings, this is the dead range to be picking in. The 108, 109. I think I am either wanting to take these picks and do anything I can, even if the trade calculator says that you're overpaying just a little bit. On the previous deal, it said that. And if we can move up into the top 7, that'd be great. Or if you wanted to take 108, 109 and move them to get to like the 203, 204 and pick up additional pieces on top of it, those are the trades I'm going to be looking at with your league settings kind of being stuck just in the middle there. But I really appreciate you and hope I was able to help out. But Colin says, hey, Mason, just purchased team review. Colin, do you mind letting me know what your team name is? If anybody's in this live stream right now and wants their team looked at live, let me know and I'll skip straight to your team and we can do your team right now. I'm going to be doing all these teams today and tomorrow. So I'm assuming Colin's team is Dunny. Nathan says, how do I get to review my team? So if you're an annual member of the site with code FLOCK, you get a free team review every year, free trade question, free start set question. If you are not a annual member of the site with code FLOCK, you can go purchase any question that you want with the personal advice tab in the top right corner. But I definitely recommend just getting the annual sub just because you get so much more with the site. But Colin, I'm going to assume this is your team. We're going to go ahead and look at your team right now. So say Mason, been watching you for a few years now and love the content. Thank you, my friend. Looking for some guidance on what to do with the team heading into the second year of the league, and we hold the 102. So we are the second team with the league analyzer. You can tell it's a relatively recent league because super even league. Like teams 8 through team 2, all almost identical in terms of the value that they have. It is an extremely shallow format, and this is going to be super important to note. This is a 2 quarterback 10 or super flex 10 team start 9 league. So if we are assuming that, okay, you're going to be starting a tight end, you're going to be starting 2 quarterbacks, you only have 6 wide receiver running backs in your starting lineup in a 10 teamer. So that's 60 total running backs receivers. In those settings, the depth receivers that may matter in other formats, like deeper formats that we looked at previously, like George Pickens, That's a good example. Like Zay Flowers, like Jerry Jeudy. These like, say, Chris Olave, like Michael Pittman, like Calvin Ridley, like Jacoby Myers. Like Jacoby Myers is a great example. If you play in a 12-team league where you start 11 guys, Jacoby Myers is an incredibly important player that you're going to be able to get in your lineup every week, and he will actually make a difference through the course of the entire season. If you're playing in a 10-team league where you only start 9 guys, Jacoby Myers is worthless. Just doesn't matter in this format. Like, those depth receivers aren't going to move the needle. Like, you legitimately need to be like a top 20 wide receiver in points per game to make a difference here. So when we're mapping this out, very rarely are we going to be caring too much about depth, and we are going to be trying to chase the highest ceiling we can possibly get. And with that in mind as well, I do think that we are also going to be trying to place a priority on the top end quarterbacks and a top end tight end, just because wide receiver depth and running back depth won't matter as much. So we don't need to really pay for it. But quarterback, we have Mahomes and Herbert. Obviously, Mahomes and Herbert have not looked good over the past, or year specifically in the case of Herbert. If you're looking at both offenses, they have looked like they are going to be rush first, slow-paced offenses where you're not getting a ton of passing volume. But again, we go back just say 3 years ago with both quarterbacks, and they're at the very top of the NFL when it comes to their overall passing volume numbers and their fantasy points. Can we rank them as if that's what they're going to be this next season? Probably not, but we do know it's in the range of outcomes, and I think you could see either team have a change in identity based off personnel, maybe not this year, but maybe the year after or the year after that, just depending on what happens and with how this develops. So I still view both quarterbacks as QB1s in Dynasty in the long term, because I think their value is going to be extremely stable, even if the points per game this next season isn't exactly as high as what their rankings appear to be. But we also have Michael Penix, we have Geno Smith, so we're completely fine at quarterback, right? I mean, that 102, we absolutely have no interest whatsoever in taking Cam Ward there. I'm going over to running back. We have Gibbs, Kamara, both presumably can be running back ones this next year. They can both be top 10 guys. A little bit concerned when it comes to Kamara if you're looking at the overall offensive environment that he's going to be playing in. But a big thing is obviously they're contending assets. We're a contending team, so completely fine building around them. Going over to receiver, London, A.J. Brown, both very easily could be top 10 receivers this next season from a fantasy points per game perspective. I'm looking at Rome Odunze. The issue, of course, is going to be now that you have both a top 10 drafted tight ends and you have Luther Burden coming into town. I still think that Rome can move the needle. The difficulty is going to be that this team, for it to contend, you need Rome to be a difference maker. You can't have Rome being a wide receiver 3 in fantasy. Not in this format, not for this team. And then we have Kmet absolutely nuked by Loveland. Like, Kmet probably plays. Kmet probably, like, takes points away from Loveland, and it annoys Loveland owners this year. But is Kmet going to matter at all for your fantasy? No. Like, you're not going to be able to start this dude. So, I mean, I think this is a team that can contend, but we definitely need additional pieces here. Like, obviously, we want to be holding on to the elite level assets that we have, like these green players, these yellow players, in this kind of format where you don't necessarily have a ton of depth as a requirement. Like you can see 10 teams start 9. You never consider tearing down from these stud options unless it's just an absolute insane deal. Now, what I would look to do with this 102, a couple different possibilities. One thing is, if you look at my rankings, I think the 102 has a tier of 3 players here. I think the 102, the 103, and the 104 all about the same between Travis Hunter, Tet, and Amari and Hampton. I prefer Hampton as my 2, but again, if you're even looking at the rankings on the site, you have like 2.6, 3.4, and 3.4 for the average expert consensus. So if you could move down from like 2 to 4, if somebody absolutely loves Hampton, loves Hunter, loves Tet, and they want to get them, either one of these, any of these guys is going to fit your roster just fine. If you can move from 2 to 4 or 2 to 3 and pick up an additional piece, specifically maybe solve that tight end need, I think that could be fine. Let's see if we have a team with pick 4 and what could make sense. So say this team at pick 4, hypothetically, is in love with Travis Hunter and they just really want Hunter. If you can move from 2 to 4, while at the same time maybe finding you an upgrade elsewhere, maybe finding you an upgrade from like Penix to Trevor Lawrence. Now that Lawrence has Hunter and Brian Thomas, I think that is something that we can look at. The difficulty with this is they don't have too many names that would really move the needle for us. Like, I'm not doing that tier down for Sutton. I don't think that they would do it for Tyreek. Like, we can go ahead and we can put this into the trade calculator, but say we give up the 102, we get back the 104 and Tyreek Hill if you really wanted to be a contending team. Is saying that is going to be a fair deal for us. You bring in Tyreek, all of a sudden it takes less pressure where you don't necessarily need Rome to be that pop. That 104, if we end up getting McMillan there, it may not necessarily matter anyway. And it gives us a little bit more flexibility where we don't, like, Tank Dell's not going to be startable, right? Cup may not be startable. Legette's not going to be startable. I need to move Legette probably down even further. So I think if you wanted to move down from the 102, just 1 to 2 spots, if you're going to be able to pick up a difference-making player, we can. Now, of course, we're not going to settle for making that move for Jalen McMillan. Like, we definitely need something. If you can't get any additional juice from just moving back 2 spots, what I'd probably be looking to do at that point is just go with best player available. And in my mind, best player available, especially for this format with this team, would just be to pull the trigger on Hampton. And then at that point, you're rolling into the season starting Mahomes, Herbert, Gibbs, Hampton, Kamara. So it's 5 of your 9. And then 6 is London, 7 is A.J. Brown, 8 is Rome Odunze, and then 9 is whatever tight end that you have. You're going to be sitting with pick 12 with the 202. And that actually is going to put you in a perfect spot if one of these players fall. If you end up getting Matthew Golden, Igbuka, Loveland, or Tyler Warren falling to you at 12, phenomenal. The difficulty is if every single one of these players goes in the order that I have them ranked, then at 12, you're looking at like Dart, which in your scenario where this is going to be a 10-team format and you already have 4 starting quarterbacks, we're not wanting to take Dart there. You're going to have to choose between RJ Harvey, Caleb Johnson, which by no means is a bad choice. You can go with either guy, and I think they can actually help you contend this year while have the extended runway with their value. But then you're in a situation in which you have no tight end to start in a league in which you only start 9 guys. So tight end's going to make up a decent little percentage of your starting lineup output. So I think the hope is to hold on to pick 12, wait until your rookie draft, see if you are able to get either Loveland or Tyler Warren falling to you. If you get Loveland or Tyler Warren falling to you, cool. Maybe neither guy is super productive early on in their rookie seasons, but hopefully by the time you get to mid-year or in the second half of the season, they can give you a low tight end 1 production and then while at the same time have all the future value. And then that solves the tight end position. You bring in Hampton, or maybe you trade back to the 104. You pick up the additional piece like Tyreek. Let's see what teams have the 105. Because even if you are the 106, 107, because the main thing is you have to get inside pick 7. If anybody's watching this right now and you're sitting with pick 8, I'm doing everything I can to get pick 7. This team has the 107. So if you wanted to say pivot off of that 102 down to 107, what you're effectively doing is you're moving Hampton for Judkins, which is a significant drop, and I would be asking for a decent amount in return. This team also needs help at quarterback. So if we can put together a little quarterback deal with this, we give them Geno in the 102, right? So all of a sudden they have their 3rd quarterback. They move up from pick 7 to pick 2. What can we add on top of this? 107. Obviously not Puka. Obviously not Nico. Obviously not Hurts. We could possibly look at is getting a Jonathan Taylor. The 207, which is going to be pick 15. Would that be enough for us? I'd be fine going for Brown as well, where Chase Brown dodges the NFL draft, so he looks like he's in a perfect spot for this next season. You'd ask for Kelsey instead of that 207 if you were worried about you not getting a tight end at 12. But yeah, I think if you were going to make a trade, it's centering around moving back from the 102, picking up another selection, definitely inside the top 7 picks, while getting an additional starting player that can make a difference for you right now. 202, we're hoping one of the tight ends fall. It's a 10-team league. That's more like pick 12. Reasonably, you may get Warren. You may get Loveland. We don't know. And then again, not trading any of the studs, just given the league format where depth does matter a decent amount here. Okay. But let me mark that as complete. And again, Colin, if you have any additional questions, please let me know right now. And Ozzy says, hey, Mason, huge fan, been an annual flocker for a little while now using code FLOCK. How do I redeem my free team review? Thanks. Really appreciate you. I don't know if you are a flocker or a mother flocker. Whenever you would go to sign up to the site, there'd be 2 options. There'd be flocker, mother flocker. And on the mother flocker option, it would specifically say that you get a free team review. And if you were a mother flocker, where when you chose that, it says you get a free team review, what you would do is you would just do the same exact process as everybody else here, where you would go to the site, you would hit that personal advice button, you would go and hit team review, you would link your league, you would say, hey, I'm going to say, should already load my leagues. So say I'm in the Flock 18, my team's Mason Dodd, you select this, and then you go ahead and you say, I want to send this to Mason. And if you're the annual mother flocker, you should have a free voucher where this actually gets taken off and it's $0 to submit to me. But that's if you're an annual mother flocker with code FLOCK, which I know that's a little bit confusing. But let me move this over, and I know that we have some other team reviews to look at. Let's go ahead and let's look at this for Jack Griff 21. So Jake, whatever it is, appreciate you being with us and excited to check this out. So this is an extremely shallow format. This is an 8-team league, start 10, 2 quarterback. So completely understand if you play in an 8-team league and you go, hey, man, I can only find 7 other buddies to play in a Dynasty league with me. No harm, no foul. I get it. But if you are playing in an 8-team league, what you have to do is you have to go, hey, this sucks, but we got to do what we got to do. So we have to make this, instead of a start 10, is we have to add a couple flex spots, and this at least has to be a start 12. Because you do some simple math here. 8-team league, start 10, super flex. So 2 of your spots are going to be quarterback. A spot's going to be tight end. You're starting 7 wide receiver running backs in an 8-team league. There are only 56 total running backs, wide receivers being started across the league. It's like as shallow as like ESPN redraft leagues. So everything that we are looking to do, whether it's your rookie picks, whether it's your veterans, regardless of what it is we are looking to make 2-for-1 deals, 3-for-1 deals to get upgrades inside the starting lineup. And so we're going to pull this up. We are number 3 with the league analyzer right now. And obviously we have to change the perception of how we view this team. Because if this is a 12-team format, I look at this and go, oh, we have Justin Herbert, we have Drake May, we have 2 QB1s. 8-team league is probably 2 QB2s. Jonathan Taylor, Josh Jacobs. I would say, oh, probably have at least an RB1 here in a 12-teamer. 8-team league, these are probably 2 RB2s, right? So we have to completely change the perception that we have with this roster. And again, I can't say like, oh, let's trade Tua, because we go and we look at every other team. Maybe this team could use a QB3. Hell, never mind. If we can trade Tua to this team in a 2-for-1 deal to get upgrade elsewhere, if you can stack Tua and Rashee Rice and go ahead and get an upgrade to Brian Thomas, you do that right this second. Any opportunity you have like that to take 2 of these depth pieces to move up and get one of these top end assets, 100% you have to do that in these league settings. It's your only option of what you can do here. Like, Same thing, even if you're looking at the gap between like Bowers and McBride. McBride's my tight end 2 in Dynasty, but in an 18 league like this, if I could take Tua and McBride and move up to Bowers, I'm doing so. So any opportunity you get like that to go ahead and make those 2-for-1 deals, we do it. Good news for you is you have the rookie picks that put you in a range to get players with massive ceilings. We are sitting here with the 101. We are going to be taking Ashton Jeanty. Again, if you pull up my Superflex rankings, you're going to see that I have Cam Ward at 5 in my rookie ranks. But with that being said, this is a 8-team Superflex league where we have Herbert, May, Tua, Darnold, Fields, A-Rich. This isn't really like a Superflex league. I would almost rather use the 1 quarterback rankings. Because like in an 8-team league like this, I'm not taking Ward over Judkins and Henderson. When we're sitting with the 105, 106, I think you obviously take any of Hampton, Hunter, or Tet if they fall. But assuming that these guys don't fall, I would take Henderson, Judkins, Ashton Jeanty, and then you're sitting in a spot where you do have a crazy amount of upside at running back. Then we're looking at the 201. This is really going to be pick 9. I think pick 9 puts you in a spot where you're looking at like Igbuka or one of the tight ends. I would definitely look to trade this range with really any of these players to go get an upgrade elsewhere. Like if you can take pick 9, which that may end up being Igbuka and Jerry Jeudy to move up and go get a wide receiver upgrade, I want to do that. If you can take Tyrone Tracy and Jerry Jeudy, Isaiah Pacheco and Josh Downs, and Pacheco just won the NFL draft, or at least looks like he is getting out of this clean. I have nothing against these players themselves, but it all just comes down to the actual value that you're looking at for these guys to make a difference for a contending team in an 8-teamer. Especially if you're bringing in Jeanty, if you're bringing in Henderson, if you're bringing in Judkins, all of a sudden these players like Tracy, Pacheco that won the NFL draft and they made out like bandits, you still want to take them and try to send them with Jerry Jeudy, Josh Downs to get the best wide receiver that you possibly can. We still want to take pick 9, which may be Igbuka here, and send it with Rashee Rice and see if we can go get an elite receiver. So that's the move that we are trying to make. You take the best running backs with these picks. You're in the exact range that you want to be. We take the depth running backs. We take the depth quarterbacks. We package with the wide receivers to get any upgrade at wide receiver we possibly can. But yeah, I'm not trading your top 3 rookie picks. Your top 3 rookie picks are the exact range. And again, I would ignore my Superflex rookie rankings with your league settings in particular. And I would just be taking Henderson and Judkins for your league. Okay. But really appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out in some way here, my guy. But DuPont says, hey, Mason, I just got an annual Mother Flocker and submitted a team review. Thank you so much. And please let me know what your name is. Again, I'm doing these in order. If nobody tells me like, hey, this is my name, I'm waiting for a review. But if you have a team review sitting here waiting, let me know and I'd be happy to just go ahead and get that done for you right now. That way you can ask me any additional questions in the chat and we can kind of go back and forth. But DuPont, found you already. This is Sloth Gang. I didn't make the playoffs last season and I'm looking to contend this year. Any help would be appreciated. So we are number 2 in the league analyzer. 2 juggernauts here, right? So we do have a significant edge ahead of the rest of the league. Typically, if you have this much value on your roster, I would say that we are looking to go ahead and contend. It's going to be a 1 quarterback, 10 team start 10 format. So you have 80 total running backs, wide receivers being started. So not a super shallow format, definitely nothing like the last one. And we have 2 picks inside the top 4. So we're going to be sitting really pretty for this rookie draft. 1 quarterback format, not much to discuss when it comes to these QBs. I would say Lawrence obviously gets a pretty big bump with Travis Hunter coming in, but at the same time with that, right, I can't come out here and say, oh yeah, Trevor Lawrence, so valuable now. You need to be selling Trevor Lawrence to go get an upgrade elsewhere because it's a 10-team 1 quarterback league. This team is not starting Trevor Lawrence. This team is not starting Trevor Lawrence. This team's not starting Trevor Lawrence. This team's not starting 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 Lawrence. Maybe this team is. Maybe the Baker team is. So if you can go ahead and if you could send Trevor Lawrence and David Montgomery and go get Chase Brown. We do it in a heartbeat. But again, it's a 10-team, one quarterback format. There's nothing to discuss at quarterback. Nobody's going to be buying these QBs. But if you could make that move, we would. Trevor Lawrence looks to be a massive winner considering the Travis Hunter pick. We have Daniels, we have Stroud, so it's not like we necessarily need Lawrence by any stretch of the imagination. But again, I don't know if you're going to be getting a ton of value in return. The vast majority of the value on this team is going to be with Puka, Brian Thomas, Garrett Wilson, Zay Flowers. This is the core of the team. We need to start 9 combined wide receivers, running backs. So here are our 4 receivers. We don't really have anything beyond this. We maybe Adonai Mitchell turns into something, but he's not going to be reliable. Like, at least we can't project that right now. And we have 2 viable veteran running backs that are good in the short term, but we can't project them anything further out than 2025. So we have 6 of the 8 total running back wide receivers that we're going to need. We have the 103, the 104. Going ahead, looking at the range that we're going to be getting. In my opinion, you take 2 of these guys. If Hampton goes at 2, then cool, we're going to take Travis Hunter and Ted. Which maybe that looks crazy because we'll then be sitting with 6 wide receivers. And I have Travis Hunter and Ted McMillan. In a 10-team league, they're high-end wide receiver 2s for me. But in a 12-team format, they're both low-end wide receiver 1s immediately for me in Dynasty. And I know it sounds crazy, we're stacking up wide receivers that much. But specifically in a format like this where quarterback value is not really going to be there. It's a non-tight end premium format, so really who cares about tight end? You can stack wide receivers like that, and you can just throw out 6 wide receivers in your lineup every single week and dominate your league from the flex spots. Especially when we have Jane Daniels at quarterback, obviously gives us that flexibility. So, I mean, based off the depth that we have with Ray Davis as our RB3, I mean, for me, preferred, hopefully one of your league mates takes T-Mac at 2, or maybe they take Travis Hunter at 2. And instead we get Hampton at pick 3 and we get T-Mac at 4 or whatever wide receiver they don't take. But at least from what I've seen in the chat at the moment, it does seem like most people are going to go Hampton at 2. Can everybody please spam the chat right now? I know I'm rambling to myself, but spam the chat. What player are you wanting at 2 at the moment? If you have the 102 in a vacuum, who are you taking? Again, for me, I have it as Hampton, but I have Hampton, Travis, and Tet all in the same tier. So please let me know in the chat. Let's see if there's a shot that you actually have the team at 2 going elsewhere. The 207, you're in a range in which it's actually pick 15 since it's a 10-team league. But again, the quarterbacks probably will not have gone. Maybe you have Cam Ward. So let's just assume that the quarterbacks haven't gone. So 207's pick 17. You're looking like Kyle Williams, Trey Harris. You're not going to be able to get to the RJ Harvey. You're not going to be able to get to the Caleb Johnson. So what picks do we need to actually get to these running backs? And because the tight ends will make a difference as well. So we removed Cam Ward. We removed Jackson Dart from this. Then let's say Warren's 10. RJ Harvey's 11. Caleb Johnson's 12. So it looks like most people are taking Hampton. Which obviously we're not going to get the chance. It's whoever's up to the 102 is taking that. So, I mean, if we could move up to the 201 to put us in a position to get RJ Harvey or Caleb Johnson, I think that would be very advantageous. We had the additional first round pick. I'm definitely not wanting to sell that. If we're looking at moves that we could realistically make, going back to the one team that could use Lawrence, what is their rookie pick? The 108, the 301. Obviously, we're not going to get to the 108. Actually, is there any world in which we send Lawrence? But the 108, that's not even in a range that we need. The 108's freaking Matthew Golden. I'm not trying to go get Matthew Golden for this team, especially knowing that there's a realistic shot that instead you're walking away with Hunter and T-Mac at the 103, 104 anyway, where our objective here is trying to pick up that running back depth piece. One thing that you could do here, and real quick, if y'all are on the rankings page, y'all can still see the rookie picks, just go into settings and hit show rookie picks. Let's just search by expert. Ooh, sorry about that. Search by expert. Let's look up mid-seconds. Mid-second. What running backs are in this range? So you could look at a couple of these RBs that now really dodge the NFL draft and look like they should be moving up dynasty rankings, where this is another possibility if you whiff on Hampton at the 103, 104. If you wanted to take your 207, which at the moment looks like it may be like Kyle Williams, Trey Harris, if you wanted to just take this pick and send it for the running back range of, let's look at, where's the mid-second? Okay, mid-second. If you wanted to send it for the running back range of like Tyrone Tracy, James Robinson. I mean, Brian Robinson's a winner, of course, of the NFL draft. I think Pacheco's a winner as well. And send it for one of those stopgap veteran RBs. You can. I would probably wait until after the NFL draft to do this, just in case one of those teams ends up taking like Cam Scadaboo in round 4. Obviously, we're not trying to make that deal before we get that clarity, because then it gives you the flexibility. You take that 207, you send it for like Tyrone Tracy. We have a viable RB3 here. Then at that point, we have an elite quarterback. We have 6 wide receivers. Even if worst case scenario, you get Hunter and T-Mac, you have 6 wide receivers that we can build around both in the short and long term. We have 3 viable running backs if you trade that 207 for like the Tyrone Tracy, Isaiah Pacheco, Brian Robinsons of the world. Tight end, we have somebody we can start between Pitts and Jonnu. We probably start Jonnu in the short term, see if Pitts ever turns into be anything. Probably doesn't, but it's a non-tight end premium format, so it's not the end of the world. But I think that's the move. Best player available at 3, best player available at 4, 207. You're probably in a spot in which if Hampton doesn't make it to you at 103, 104, you may end up having to sell that pick for a veteran RB. But DuPont, please let me know in the chat if you have any more questions. Chimichanga says, Mason, I sent a team review last night. I probably should have sent a different team of mine. But if you have time, take a look. Chimichanga, if you want me to look at a different team, just give me your sleeper ID and tell me what team name. I see your team review right here. I can do this one, or if you want me to look at a different one, whatever you want, just let me know in the chat. And also, DuPont, before I close this out for you, please let me know if you have any specific questions, and I'd be super happy to take a look at them. Dylan says this team will specifically need Hampton. I think, yeah, I mean, if this team gets Hampton, then you don't even need to sell the 207. Like, if for whatever reason the team at 2 ends up going Hunter, you get Hampton at pick 3, 207, you can just take Kyle Williams, call it a day. But Chimichanga says, just do this one. No big deal. All right, my guy. If y'all don't know, Chimichanga has been with us for absolutely ever, which, of course, you know, I appreciate you for sticking with me so long. DuPont says, you answered everything I needed. Appreciate it, man. No, thank you so much, again, for being a member of the flock. Super excited to check that out for you. But let me move this over for Chimichanga. Holy crap. Look at this team. Better Call Hall. Their entire value bar is rookie picks. This is not Chimichanga's team, but we got to look at this for a second. They have the 102, the 103, the 104, the 108, the 112, the 201. Oh my gosh, this is insane. I've never seen a value chart look like this. Again, let me reiterate the first round picks they have. Pick 2, pick 3, pick 4, pick 8, pick 12, pick 13. Then they also have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 2026 picks. This is going to be a nasty team in 2026. Absolutely insane. But this is Hasta La Vista, baby. Love the team name. We are the first team in this league analyzer. Tight end premium format. It's only 0.5. So basically nothing. It's also half a point per rushing first down. Chimichanga, can you please clarify? It's only going to be for rushing first downs that you get the extra half a point, because that actually will make a little bit of a difference. J. Rob, happy to see you, says, Mason, why did the Browns suck, brother? Why did they have to take freaking Dylan Gabriel over Sanders? They will regret this. I'm telling you. My take with it is Sanders had such bad interviews that NFL teams are going, if we bring this guy in the locker room, it's going to cause problems. That's my take with it. Obviously, we can't know for sure because we weren't in those rooms, but I think actions speak pretty damn loud. Okay, so this is truly rushing first downs only. So it's a 2 quarterback, 12 team start 9 format. So 22.5% of our starting lineup requirements are going to be the quarterback position. And if you're getting half a point per rushing first down, we're typically not wanting to throw wide receivers into that flex spot as opposed to running backs in comparison to a regular PPR league. The other adjustment I'm personally going to be wanting to make here is I would, in a vacuum where we can, prefer the rushing quarterbacks over the pocket passers. This is something that we don't have on the site. Maybe we should add it on the site. Just kind of depends how many people play in rushing first down leagues, but let me look up first down leaders rushing NFL. How hard is it to get this data? Derrick Henry had 93. So just for reference, Derrick Henry's adding another 45 points. Whatever AI this is just completely wrong. It's telling us CMC had 83. So maybe we can figure this out. Rushing first down. Here is an actual list. Where are the quarterbacks? That's the main thing I want to see. So Jalen Hurts is picking up an additional 30 points just based off first downs in this league. Jaden Daniels picking up an additional 27. So if we compare like Jalen Hurts picking up the additional 30 points, that's like Hurts throwing for another 7 passing touchdowns. So we're in a spot where I think you are incentivized to build around the rushing quarterbacks if we can. And again, probably the running backs if we can as well, which is not how we're built at the moment. How we're built at the moment is we have Burrow and Lawrence at quarterback. And then obviously these stopgap older guys. I would say both these quarterbacks have won the offseason for sure. Burrow, you get back both Chase and Higgins. Lawrence, you add in Travis Hunter. I have moved Lawrence up to QB 15 in my rankings. And I'm not going to be telling people in a vacuum to sell Lawrence. But specifically in your league, how many rushing first downs did Trevor Lawrence have? Is it going to be impossible to find him here? I know I'm probably blinding y'all at the moment. This is blinding me. I just don't know how much Lawrence played. So Burrow got 16. So what you're getting additional like 8 points from Burrow. But anyway, I mean, if you can find a reasonable trade for one of those rushers, like I know we're not going to get to Allen, we're not going to get to Hurts, we're not going to get to Daniels, we're not going to get to Lamar. But what quarterback would be a reasonable pivot where we could expect some rushing first downs? It's not going to cost an arm and a leg. Is there anybody that we could possibly find on a team that makes sense? Maybe the Kyler pivot. This is looking like it's going to be a rebuilding roster. So the question is, if we were looking to make a move like this, pivoting off of Lawrence and what pick gets us to Kyler, I'd like to see if we could get some additional running back value, but obviously they just have absolutely nothing. They have the 202. What I actually think may be interesting here is when we're sitting with the 111, the 111 should end up being sorry, switching this around. Should end up being like Tyler Warren, Loveland, Igbuka, somebody in this tier. Where if we move down to like the 2, actually in a half point rushing first down, I may take RJ Harvey. I may take Caleb Johnson. I may reach on one of these guys. So I don't really even know if the 111 and like the 202 in your league, if there's any value gap whatsoever. So if there was any world where you could take Lawrence, where they receive Lawrence and the 111, not 108s, and we get back Kyler. Oh, gosh, I'm sorry. I had this as the last league was a 1 quarterback format. We're going to have to refresh this. They get Lawrence and the 111. We get Kyler and an early seconds. Is there any way that we can pull this off? If you could make the swap, if this team views themselves as a rebuilder, I think with Kyler, you could potentially get those rushing first downs that Lawrence is going to give you in this format. While at the same time, I think that 202, the player you're going to be taking is maybe the same guy that you're going to get the 111 anyway. I would consider it. Of course, if you're a big Lawrence guy, especially with Travis Hunter coming in, I'm not going to blame you. I think you can keep that as is. If you wanted to pivot over strong to a contending approach and pivot off of, say, like Geno to Fields, I think you could do so in this format too. Just, I think it's easy to project in a half-point rushing first down, Fields outscore Geno. Going over to running back, Tracy, Chase Brown, both massive winners. I'm going to be moving both these guys up our dynasty rankings, assuming that they're safe tomorrow. But, I mean, even if the Cincinnati Bengals go and draft Giddens in round 5, Chase Brown's going to be safe. Tony Pollard, a big winner as well with Ward and no additional competition. So your running back core looks a lot better today than I would have thought it did last week. Wide receiver, obviously DJ Moore, Chris Godwin, both falling as well. We have Hawk looking at the 208, 211. These picks, I'm just going to try to swing on as many running backs as I possibly can. We're obviously, I know you've been playing Dynasty long enough where we know our 4th round picks, these 4 picks that we have, the expected hit rate is just going to be so damn low that if one of these guys you somehow turned into Isaiah Pacheco, it would be the dream of all dreams. So I'm almost just locking in running back at the 308, 311, 405, 407, 411, 412, and just moving off like Gainwell, Hunt, Isaiah Davis. The 211, I don't necessarily know if you have any juice to try to move up. Let's see that 208s. What range we should expect that to be. 208 is going to be pick 20. So maybe you're looking at like the Mason Taylor, Terrence Ferguson range. If we could possibly get inside that top 16 picks. So if we could get inside like, say the 204, by maybe taking that 208 and your thirds to get to the 204, I think that could be interesting as well. Obviously, the earlier the better, but I think you're most likely going to be looking at that mid-second. Because you're a strong enough team to contend. We're not really pivoting off of any of these wide receivers. I think you just roll into the season with Chase, St. Brown, DJ Moore, Godwin. Start 9 format again, so the depth doesn't matter as much. Typically, I am wanting to try to trade up rather than tier down. But Jimmy Tonga, please let me know, do you have any questions with this team that maybe I didn't talk about? I think you're really in a good spot, and the only thing I could discuss is if you can get a great price on Lawrence, if we can find the rebuilding roster is super excited and we can get Kyler given your league settings with the rushing first down points, I would consider it. But outside of that, I think we really got lucky when it comes to these runs. I don't want to say got lucky. Maybe that's a poor choice of words. But we're definitely in a much better spot than I thought we would have been with all these running backs looking like they are just guaranteed to be starting this next year. Damon says, hey, Mason, I have a review in there as Dynasty 07. Okay, we'll check that one out next. CJ says, have you done all the reviews at the top of the screen, Mason? I have not. I'm just going to whatever people tell me their name is, and we'll do that if they're in the live stream so they can ask me questions as we look at it. And if not, I will just go in order from the top to bottom. So if you have a review at the very top, please let me know what the name is, and I can go ahead and get that done for you right now. But yeah, Chimichanga, again, I really appreciate you sticking with me for so long. I wish I had more for you here. But again, I think a big thing is if we can try to put ourselves in that range where we can just get like RJ Harvey or get Caleb Johnson. I think you're in a good spot. Okay, but let's move this over. We're going to look at this Dynasty 07, and then afterwards we're going to get Rye Guy. Just remind me after that. Okay, Turtles we're going to have to reach out to get his league ID. Dynasty 07 is our next guy. Super excited to check this out. This is going to be another start 9 format, 2 quarterback league. So quarterback's going to make up a very high percentage of our starting lineup output weekly. Half PPR as well. Saying, hey, Mason, going into year 3 of our dynasty. I won the first year and just missed the playoffs last year. Trying to retool and come back stronger this season. Just came off a big trade of Kyler in the 103 for Burrow, Brian Robinson in a second. Any advice would be helpful. Love the work. Giving up the 103 is a decent little piece there, just because you are looking at a Travis Hunter level prospect or a T-Mac, whatever you prefer. But specifically for your start 9 Superflex league, I actually really like the idea of going out there and quote unquote overpaying for those true elite level quarterbacks like Joe Burrow, especially now that it looks like Brian Robinson does dodge competition. I like to trade a little bit more now than I would have probably 3 days ago, because it looks like Brian Robinson can be a startable guy. But let me hook you up with a couple free trade questions. That way later in the offseason, if you have anything else that you want to send my way, you can. But this is going to be the 4th team in the league analyzer. Yeah, you can tell Dynasty League's been going for a while because you have some of these teams at the bottom that look like they are just absolutely struggling. But we're near the top of the league. There's definitely that one team that's a little bit stronger than us here. That is Barkley, Henry, Caleb, Nix. Really, it's just Chase, Lamb, St. Brown really carrying them at this point. But pulling this up, ooh, we have a bunch of second rounders to play around with. So this is going to be really interesting. But again, this is going to be a start 9 format. So it's not like the depth is going to be super, super important in this league, even though it is a 12-teamer. But quarterback, we are sitting with Burrow as well as Patrick Mahomes. So we have 2 quarterbacks that we can presumably start over the next decade, right? Like, we're not necessarily having to do anything here. We have stable long-term value, and at the same time, we have short-term production. If Mahomes was my quarterback 1 in Dynasty, maybe you're a little bit concerned about what the points per game should be this next season. But your quarterback 2, I think we're in a great spot. Now, of course, we can add in another quarterback, and I think we actually will have a potential option here in the second round, which we can talk about in 1 second. I'm going over to running back. Long-term, very shaky, right? There are very few running backs in Dynasty that we can sit here and we can say, oh, okay, we know what these guys are going to be in the long term. And those players maybe are like Gibbs, Bijan, Genty, Achane, Amari, and Hampton, Bucky, Henderson, Judkins. You give me these names, I'm like, hey, I'm very confident what they are 2-3 years from now. However, the David Montgomery, Brian Robinson, Aaron Jones of the world, you're living day by day. Brian Robinson, hooray. He just survived the first 100 picks of the NFL draft. Great news for him. And I think our running back room looks a lot better because he did. I mean, if Brian Robinson got dusted, if the Commanders ended up taking Caleb Johnson, I'd be sitting here going, okay, yeah, our running back room is in absolute shambles. But it looks like we can contend with this running back room this next year. Beyond 2025, who knows? Are we super strong in 2025? Of course not. But we can get it done. Wide receiver, we have Nico, Olave, Tyreek, Devontae Adams. Kind of similar to running back, right? We have a lot of these contending assets. Like if we're looking at pieces that are going to be worth less next offseason than they are today, Montgomery, Brian Robinson, Aaron Jones, Tyreek, Devontae Adams, all those players I can almost guarantee no matter what they do this season, they will be worth less 12 months from now. Like even if Jahmyr Gibbs tears his ACL tomorrow and David Montgomery's a running back, a top 3 running back in fantasy this next season, he may be less than the RB23 in Dynasty next offseason, as crazy as that sounds. Which maybe I'm exaggerating at that point, but he won't be worth much more than he is, right? Even if he hits the absolute best case scenario. So if you were a rebuilding team, you'd have a lot of work to do. You'd need to be selling off at the very minimum 5 assets, and I'd be throwing Nico and Olave on the trade block to see what we could get as well. But based off the additional assets that we have coming in the form of these rookie picks, I actually think that our plan should be to contend this next season. Wide receiver, we have the contending assets to do so. We kind of run 4 deep at receiver, so we're not super deep at either wide receiver or running back. But again, it's a start 9 half PPR format. So tight end is going to make up a high percentage of our starting lineup output because we don't have a ton of wide receivers we need to put in our lineup. And quarterback's going to make up a high percentage of our lineup output as well. And we have Burrow and Mahomes, and we have Trey McBride. So if this was like a start 10, start 11 league, I'd definitely be more concerned than I am. And I think that we have the flexibility based off what we're looking at with the rookie picks. Now, if you were to stick and pick and we were to look at some of the better options that you have available to you, say the 203, that's going to be about pick 15, right? That's going to be a 12-team league. Is that our first pick is the 203? Yes. We're looking at Jaden Higgins, Luther Burden. Now, of course, if RJ Harvey, Caleb Johnson, Jackson Dart fall to you, it is an absolute no-brainer. But I think you're probably going to be in a spot where it's Jaden Higgins, it's Luther Burden that you're looking at. I think either guy would fit your team. For me personally, because I think you should view yourself as a contending roster, especially knowing that the window is probably closing with guys like Tyreek, Devontae Adams, Dave Montgomery, Aaron Jones. I personally would prefer the player that I think has a clear path to make a difference this year, which would be Jaden Higgins, even if you like the prospect of Luther Burden a little bit more, just given the situation that he should have with competition for targets. I think Higgins has a clear path to really move the needle for you right now. Going ahead, looking at the 205, 206, 209, 211, the difficulty that you have with this is like 205, 206. This is going to be this tier of Jalen Milroe, Kyle Williams, Trey Harris. Now, of course, it goes without saying, any of these previous players fall, you just go ahead and take them. But in that mid-second round, if we're looking at players that have a path to move the needle for you right this second, it's going to be like the Kyle Williams range. I think because you're a contending team, while I may like the rushing upside of Jalen Milroe, if he's not starting right now, I don't necessarily know if you can take him. So it seems like while we have a lot of rookie picks, we are boxed out of the players that could actually help us right now. And with that in mind, I would probably prefer to try to throw a couple of these picks in the block and see what you could get. Like, see if we can move up. See if we can package these picks with players to get improvements inside the starting lineup, especially knowing that it's only going to be a start 9 league. Now, we're a clear contending team. What we're going to have to find is we're going to have to find a clear rebuilder. Like going ahead and looking at this team here, this is a roster that has Brian Thomas, Garrett Wilson, George Kittle, Jared Goff, and that's about it. Ramondre Stevenson just got nuked for them. And nobody else had value to begin with. Aaron Rodgers still hasn't signed to a team. They have the 106, but we're not going to be able to trade for the 106, right? If this is a team that decides that they want to be a rebuilder, which in my opinion, they should be a rebuilder. What assets would they have to be able to give us? Jared Goff, Brian Thomas, Garrett Wilson, George Kittle. Brian Thomas going into year 2, rebuilding team, probably doesn't want to sell. I think we're looking at Wilson, Goff, Kittle. Looking at our roster, is there any world in which we can trade a younger player and a second round pick to get to Wilson? No. Is there any world in which we could get to Goff? We can try our best. If you can trade the 203, 205 and go get Jared Goff, I'm doing it in a heartbeat, but I would be very surprised if we can pull that off. So an early second and a mid second in the trade calculator. And ask for Jared Goff in return. Yep, that deal's not getting done. So it looks like while this is a clear rebuilding team, the reality is they just simply don't have anything to give us unless you wanted to send like a third for Ramondre Stevenson and just have an additional running back depth piece that kind of just looks like a handcuff at this point. I'm going ahead and pulling up this roster here. They just earned the 104. Their wide receiver 3 is Shakir. Their running back 3 is Jerome Ford. You can make an argument that this is a team that should be rebuilding as well. And this team maybe actually has a few assets that could be available for us to go ahead and trade for relatively easily. Russ just gets nuked with Jackson Dart, right? We could use a quarterback 3, especially a cheap one. But if we're not going to be able to get Dart and we have Russ starting for the first 6 weeks of the year, frankly, it may not matter us going out there and sending that late second for him. You may just want to kind of sit on your hands there. But DeAndre Swift, this would be like the perfect example of another player that just won the NFL draft, right? Where if you could pivot off of one of your second rounders, specifically one of these late seconds, and send like the 209, go pick up DeAndre Swift, get an additional running back depth piece for a contending team, I think that'd be completely fine, especially if this team's looking like a rebuilder. And if we're going ahead and looking at like what the 209 really is, we're trading like, what? Mason Taylor, Cam Scatterbu for DeAndre Swift, where Swift looks like he is the starting running back for Ben Johnson. I think I go ahead and I throw that deal out. Another thing that we could look to do is try to get up to Kamara, try to get up to DJ Moore if this team is truly willing to pivot over to that rebuild. The issue is going to be, of course, specifically when it comes to DJ Moore, that DJ Moore does have a little bit more of an extended runway with his age, that a rebuilding team doesn't feel the need that they absolutely have to trade him the way that you would assume that they feel when it comes to Kamara and DeAndre Swift. And if we're looking at what picks that we'd be willing to do there, the 203, the difficulty is like if we look at it in a vacuum where it's like Luther Burden, Jaden Higgins, right? Maybe it's not like the most exciting pick, but you also have the outside chance that like your league mates do something crazy and Jackson Dart falls to you. So I'd almost prefer not trading away the 203 just because you have a shot that one of those guys falls. And instead, when we're looking at like the 205, 206, 209, you just don't have a shot that any of those top tier players fall. So then you're, in my mind, looking at seeing if we can trade like 3 of these seconds away, like the 205, 206, and the 211 to bring in Kamara and DeAndre Swift. And then all of a sudden, yeah, it seems like we have a bunch of running back depth. The reality is, if we have Swift, Kamara, Montgomery, Brian Robinson, Aaron Jones, 2 of the 5 are probably complete dust. 2 of the 5 will be nothing this next year. Well, I know which 2 of those guys will be. Probably not. But we probably will have enough firepower to get the job done at running back this next year. You add on the 4 additional wide receiver starters, and at the same time, you have the 2 quarterback pieces. We have the elite tight end. It's only a start 9 format. It's a half PPR league, so all in all, probably running back is a little more advantageous though in the flex than wide receiver in comparison to a full PPR format. See if there are any other moves to make. Like once you get to this range, these teams should be contending, right? Maybe this team with 3 2026 first rounders is looking to pivot over to a rebuild. If we can maybe move off of a couple seconds and go get a player like Godwin, go get a player like Mixon, I think that could be very interesting as well. But I think really that's the main thing that I would be wanting to do personally here. It's just because we look at the context of our team, we should be contending. Not only should we be contending, but at the same time, we are kind of boxed out with a lot of these second round picks to get to exciting prospects in my mind. So I would almost rather take these seconds and trade them for those veteran contending pieces from rebuilding teams that aren't really going to need them or have any use for them, to see if we can actually make that push to really win right now. But that would be my move if we could, my guy. But please let me know in the live chat if you have any questions, and I'd be super happy to answer it before we move on. But real quick, Sir Brooke says Mason Taylor plus Justin Fields. Money bomb Mason. We'll see. Yeah, y'all know I'm a big Fields guy. Big Fields guy. But Not Oliver says, first Dynasty starting this year. Any tips, best format you'd recommend? We have 12, thinking super flex, 3 wide receiver, 2 flex. Need a league name suggestion. I would go Mason's Minions. That wouldn't be a bad one. And yeah, I would say start 10, super flex, 1.5 tight end premium format, 12 team league. It's probably going to be the most standard format at this point. I know a lot of people love the third down reversal. For me, I think it's honestly just kind of up to whatever you want to do there. I don't necessarily think it matters too much. But yeah, of course, thank you for being with me for so long. I know you've been with me forever, my guy. But Snell versus what's the tight end rule? That tight ends get 1.5 points per reception. It just makes the tight end position a little more viable to put in the flex spot. But I don't know if we have anything else from Damon. Really do appreciate you and really hope I was able to help you out. And let's move over and let's get Rye Guy's team next. So Rye Guy here is going to be Rye Guy. What was your team name again? I'm sorry. I thought it was Rye Guy. Unless I was mistaken. Let me scroll up. Maybe it's new. Maybe I need to refresh. Okay. Let's go ahead and refresh. And yep, Rye Guy's there at the bottom. So let's go ahead and pull this up. Okay. Before I forget, let's make sure that we hook Rye Guy up with some free trade questions. And dear God, this is going to be fun. All right. Because typically when we get a league to look at like this, where the dominant team is so far ahead of the rest of the league that it's almost not even fun. It's whoever was that number one team is the one who sends it in. That would be Jason 2025 draft. The team that's sitting with Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Malik Neighbors, Nico Collins, JSN, Chris Godwin, Breece Hall, Kyron Williams, Kenneth Walker, the 102, the 105, the 108, Joe Burrow. Typically, I'd be looking at this team going, oh my gosh, well, you're so good. What you need to do is you need to make sure everybody else in the league's having fun so they pay their league dues. But that's not our team. Our team's here. Our team, in comparison to the team we just looked at, arguably, according to the League Analyzer, has less than 30% of the value. Rye Guy says that guy at the top's never won the league. That may change this year. So this is going to be a tough spot to be in. Well, I would like to sit here and I would like to say, oh my gosh, there's no way we can compete with that team at one. Let's rebuild. It's not like this team's going anywhere anytime soon. I can't say, oh, we can't contend with this team, so let's push to 2026. This team's still going to be a juggernaut in 2026. This team will still be a juggernaut in 2027. You can't just delay the inevitable of you having to beat this team in the fantasy playoffs to win your league. Of course, fantasy football is any given week. If it was just always the best manager won, if it was just always the best team won, clearly I would have won the Flock League last year, but teams can get lucky in the playoffs. We saw that evidenced. So we need to go ahead and we maybe need to make a play at it. And another thing that I want to discuss here is the fact that we don't have our 2026 first. We have a 2026 first from Easy Smot. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. That team has Ayuk, Terry, Metcalf, Tyreek, Evans, Hawkinson, Taylor, Chuba, Kamara, Connor. This team's good. They got Lamar. It's probably going to be a later first. But anyway, because we don't have our own first, that's another reason why we can't necessarily go out there and look to rebuild for 2026. We can't guarantee ourselves the 101 next year. So we're in a spot where we are kind of forced to contend. Not only are we forced to contend, but at the same time, it's an uphill battle. We're rocky in this scenario. Looking at quarterback, we have May, Baker, Penix. Are we screwed? No. In a 10-team one quarterback league, are we in a great spot? No. We don't have Hurts, Lamar, Burrow, Daniels, Josh Allen. That's really the only way you can say you're in a great spot in a 10-team one quarterback format is if you have an above average QB1, which QB5 or higher. We don't have one of those guys. Do we need to trade for a quarterback? No, we have May, Baker, and Penix will be just fine. Running back, we're sitting with Achane and Mixon. If we wanted to rebuild, clearly we're selling Mixon. But we're in a spot where we probably want to contend. And we definitely need running back depth, right? We don't even have a third running back on this team that I have ranked. Maybe we eventually need to rank Isaiah Davis. Maybe we'll get around to it. But we have the 209, the 210, the 109. The difficulty is going to be you won't be in a spot to take a running back, or at least not according to my rankings. 109, I think, I mean, obviously, if Henderson or Judkins fall, you immediately pull the trigger on them. But it's even a one quarterback format. So Cam Ward's not going to have gone. So like Henderson will be 105, Judkins will be 106. And then we're 109. It's going to be like Golden, Igbuka, Colston, or Loveland. We're going to get somebody in this tier. So we're not even going to be able to get a running back with that pick. Now, good news for us is we're fine with anybody in that tier. If we get Golden, cool. Matthew Golden could make a difference with this team year one. If we get Loveland, cool. He could make a difference with this team year one. In both scenarios, it's probably a player that's going to maintain value going into 2026 as well, right? And we are by no means strong enough to be trading away players that have long-term upside just to get production right now. We can't do that. Because there's a world in which Brian Thomas gets injured. You traded the 109 for Jonathan Taylor, and you are just absolutely screwed in terms of being able to contend this next season and also your long-term value at that point. So you need to take a rookie here at this pick, and I think that your guy is going to be one of those receivers or a tight end. But we still need depth at running back. Looking at the 209, 210, I think at this point, you can probably expect that Cam Ward's going to be off the board, even in a one quarterback format. I don't think you have Dart off the board, however. So this is going to be pick 19 and pick 20. But again, if you're looking at our rankings, Jalen Milroe and Dart are going to be above that. So really, it's going to be like 2021. So the range we're looking at is like Kyle Williams, Trey Harris, Cam Scatterbu, depending on where he goes. And then the round 2 tight ends like Mason Taylor, Terrence Ferguson. So am I jumping up and down with joy to go after one of these guys? No. I would love to move up if we can, but the question is like, what is that price point, and how do we get over to one of those running backs? Now, of course, you may end up getting, we don't know yet. Maybe Tootin, maybe Dylan Sampson, maybe Devin Neal, maybe Giddens. Maybe one of these players, they find themselves a good landing spot. They find themselves in a good landing spot, and all of a sudden you can actually justify taking them at the end of the second round. But until that happens, I think if you wanted to pivot over and go get depth at the running back position, you could. Another possibility is because it's going to be a 10-team league, if you wanted to just hit the reset button and send these 2025, 209, 210, and get 2026 second and third round picks. And then during the season, if we get an Achane injury, if we get a Mixon injury, then at that point trade a 2026 second and third for a veteran running back that you know that's producing. You can do that. Because I think you're going to be boxed out with your rookie picks. Unless we get some surprise landing spots. If you wanted to get into a range in which you could take the RJ Harvey, the Caleb Johnson, you're not going to be able to afford Henderson Judkins. That's not happening. But if you wanted to get one of the discount guys, reasonably in your league format, quarterbacks aren't going to go ahead of them. You have to get to the 201, the 202. Is there a world in which you can take the 209 and the 210 in this shallower format, move it to the 201? You take this 209, 210, move to the 201. At the 109, maybe you get Golden. At the 201, maybe you get RJ Harvey. Then all of a sudden you go into the season with an acceptable quarterback, a whatever tight ends, but at least you hold a fighting chance at running back with like Achane, Mixon, Harvey, Brian Thomas, Matthew Golden, Jennings, Ridley, Cup. I think that's really your only path here. 310, I'm just taking whatever your favorite running back is, or trading for a 2026 third, and then trading for a running back during the season with that 2026 third. Do you have any specific questions? It says we have an offer on the table, 209, 210 for the 202. If this is an offer on the table, what I would do, and of course I have no idea if they would accept this, they'd probably reject, is I would see if we could send them the 209, the 310 for the 202, just see what they say. Try to send them the 209, 310 and Deontay Johnson. And if they reject, then we go ahead and maybe we circle back and just get the 202. Is my thought process here is you get the 202, you take Caleb Johnson, you take RJ Harvey. It's a shallow format, right? Maybe if it was a deeper league, maybe if it wasn't a start 8-10 teamer, you go ahead and you take 2 bites at the apple instead of just trying to get the better running back prospect. But with how shallow of a format this is, I think you would actually get to a range where you can take a respectable player with that tier. That 109, you can get Igbokwe, you can get Golden, you can have a viable wide receiver. Again, for this team in particular, because you're set up in a way that I think you kind of are just incentivized to contend right now and hope that the team, that juggernaut team at the very top, has one unlucky week during the playoff stretch. 109, you take a receiver, or if both receivers are gone, you go tight end with like Loveland or Tyler Warren, whoever it may be. And then that 202, you go RJ Harvey or you go Caleb Johnson. But yeah, again, if you have any more questions, please let me know. I hooked you up with multiple free trade questions on the side as well. So if you have anything else, send it over my way. I'd be super happy to take a look at it, of course. But yeah, I see Jaden saying that he's completely out on Golden. I don't blame you whatsoever. Right guy says it's a double flex. Would you move Mixon maybe for a receiver? No. You need Mixon. Not if you're trying to contend this year, which I think you probably need to. Like based off the fact you don't have your own 2026 first. It's like you move Mixon, you are fully committing to rebuilding. Because you can't go into the season starting Isaiah Davis. But let's check this out for Jake. Says, hey, Mason, I just submitted a team review. Jay Pelany is the username. All right, let's go ahead and check this out. And again, what we're doing with the team reviews right now is if anybody shoots me a message in the chat that they have a team review waiting and they're sitting here live to watch it so they can bounce questions back and forth with me, let me know your site name in the chat and I'll go ahead and look at your team right now. And if not, we're going to go in order from oldest to newest. Okay. And Rygas says, maybe my best shot is just trading for my 2026 first back. Yeah, if you can trade for your 2026 first back, I would not mind doing that at all. You get your 2026 first back, like trade Joe Mixon for your 2026 first, then I'm burning it down. I'm selling guys like Cup, and we are trying to push, and we are just trying to accumulate 2026 assets. And we're building around like the Brian Thomas at that point, and Drake May, of course. Okay, but anyway, I think we are checking this out for Jay Pelany at the moment. And then we have a couple other teams to look at right after. Say, Mason, I'm in a good amount of leagues, but this is the one we like the best. I would say I can compete this year. My only concern is lack of depth and future picks. Okay, so this is like my favorite league to play in. We got a pretty heavy tight end premium. Not only do we have a pretty heavy tight end premium, but it's a 12-team start 11 Superflex league. So start 11 league, the depth's actually going to matter a considerable amount here, of course. If we were looking at start 11 format in comparison to a start 10, I would say that quarterback is going to matter maybe just a little bit less, and depth is going to matter a little bit more in comparison to the start 10 league. Team name's going to be the Bijan Show. And for the love of God, my friend, I am really hoping we can contend. Because if we can't contend, it may be a tough scene because we have no pick value at all. So let's go ahead and let's pull this up. Thank God we have a bunch of wide receivers. We have no picks. please let me know, do you have your 2027 picks? If you don't have your 2027 picks, you may be cooked like a Thanksgiving turkey. If you have your 2027 picks, it may be all right. We'll see. But anyway, start 11 format, wide receiver depth is going to be super important. It's a super flex league, so we definitely want to have 2 starting quarterbacks. And Russ just got nuked. So we need to figure something out. Because K. Dotton got nuked as well. I mean, I moved Dotton down. Okay, thank God. We have our 2027 picks. Here's what we're going to do. Hold on to your 2027 picks for dear life. Because the second that you trade away your 2027 picks, you put yourself in an extremely compromising position in 2026, where even if things go off the rails, like let's go worst case scenario for this team, right? Worst case scenario, Marvin Harrison turns out to be a bust. He never gets better. I'm not saying it's going to be the case, but it's possible. It's possible that Harrison's a top 5 wide receiver in Dynasty next offseason. It's also possible he never gets better from here. Bijan Robinson, significant injury, significant drop in value. Kyron Williams runs out of his rookie contract, and all of a sudden he's not a starting running back next year. Those 3 things happen if you don't have your 2027 first. You all of a sudden have a dead Dynasty team that has no shot to ever contend. If you have your 2027 first, you have the flexibility of rebuilding, retooling for a year, bringing in the 101, bringing in Jeremiah Smith, and chilling. So, no matter what, we are not trading our 2027 first. I would say that for almost like 99.99% of teams that we're ever going to look at, the only time it could ever make sense to trade your 2027 first is if you are just a true juggernaut roster. Which this is not. I think this team can contend, but it's not a juggernaut. First thing is we need a quarterback, right? We are sitting with Dak, Russ, Rodgers. I would not go out of my way to trade for a quarterback right now. Because what this team truly needs is this team needs Rodgers signing with Pittsburgh. Rodgers signs with Pittsburgh, then all of a sudden you have life, right? We can be starting Dak and Rodgers this year, Russ early in the year, maybe Russ throughout the entire season. We don't know. Can be our quarterback 3 and can fill in 4 buys. And again, it's going to be a start 11 format. So you're going to have to start so many wide receivers in this league. The quarterback's going to make up a smaller percentage of your starting lineup output regardless. So it may not be the end of the world. Now, with all that being said, if Russ does get benched early, if Rodgers never signs with Pittsburgh, then at that point, you may be in a world in which you're forced to sell your 2026 third and you're forced to go get Flacco. Or an equivalent type quarterback, right? You're forced to go get Mason Rudolph. But I'm not making that trade anytime soon, just because if you go ahead and trade for Mason Rudolph and then Aaron Rodgers signs with the Pittsburgh Steelers next week and you made that deal for absolutely no reason, then we're going to look like a fool, right? So I think you just sit here and wait. We send a prepare that Rodgers ends up signing with Pittsburgh. We're going to have a bad quarterback room regardless. Don't get me wrong. But it can maybe be serviceable given the league format if Rodgers is going to be playing. Jake says I was offered Daniels for Ladworthy in my 2027 first. It's a decent offer, but I wouldn't do it. It's which is crazy to say because if you put in the trade calculator, it's going to say, do you want the Daniels side? It's just going to put you in such a compromising position for the future. Like if it worked out, cool, it could help you contend this year. But in a start 11 format especially, the thing is all of a sudden you'd have to be like relying on Ridley and Kupp in your lineup for the next like 3 years. Start 11 format with no depth and no future picks coming in. Your team would just be decimated where you're forced to sell Daniels regardless 12 months later. Like you'd have no other option. So I'm not doing it, which is crazy to say because it's not a bad offer whatsoever, but you just can't afford it. But again, yeah, chill. Hopefully Rodgers signs with Pittsburgh. If he doesn't, then at that point, maybe your 2026 third, you trade it for a bum guy like Mason Rudolph, and we just kind of roll with that. Because if it was a start 8 league, start 9 league, I would agree with you. You go get Daniel. Start 11, you can't. Running back, we have Bijan Kyron. Kyron, great news that he has no competition added in, right? Kyron, limited team investment, coming to the end of his rookie deal. They've used him as a workhorse, but they draft Blake Corum in the 3rd last year. You're kind of concerned that maybe they go ahead. They take like Caleb Johnson in the 3rd this year. They don't take anybody. Kyron looks good. Looks like we have a great 1-2 combo at running back. And we have decent depth here. We have Bigsby. Jacksonville doesn't add a running back, and neither does the Carolina Panthers. Neither do the Carolina Panthers. And then we even have our own handcuffs with Blake Corum and Tyler Algier. So it looks like running back depth is limited, but if you actually look at how the NFL draft played out, I think your running back room is going to be fine. I'm not super concerned with that. And then going over to wide receiver, this is the reason we can contend this year. And this is the reason why this team has some hope. We have Ladd, Harrison, Worthy, Higgins as cornerstone pieces that can hold on to value for years, while at the same time allowing us to contend at the moment with current production. We have Higgins as that contending piece as well, and we have Ridley and Kupp as contending depth pieces. The Ridley and Kupp names, if it was like a 10-team start 10 league, I would say that they're absolutely worthless. But here in a start 11, 12-team format, like you're going to have to get these guys into your lineup, and I actually think that they can make a difference in your format in particular here. Going over to tight end, we're going to have Jake Ferguson and Cade Otton. It is a pretty big tight end premium format, so you can put these guys into the flex positions. So I know this is super boring advice, and I think you're the first person that I've said this with, but the issue is going to be, right, you don't have a lot of flexibility because we don't have the rookie picks. So it's going to be a lot harder for a team like you to make trades as it stands, because I think you've already made the trades with your rookie picks to put you in this position. And I think you actually kind of, I don't want to say won the NFL draft, but the NFL draft definitely helped you with these guys like Kyron Williams and then your depth running backs not getting added in competition. But I think you have to stand still right now. I don't think you do anything. I think you wait and hope that Rodgers signs with Pittsburgh. If during the season we get a significant injury, say to like T. Higgins, and we're contending, instead of trading your 2027 first, what I would look to do is I'd look to tier down from one of your top assets like Bijan Robinson. If you really find yourself just lacking depth overall, or for multiple starters, just given the league format that you're in here, with this being a start 11. But I'm not wanting to make that move right now, because as of now, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 potential starters for week 1. So you have enough depth now. So the only way you would actually go down and tier from Bijan to get 2 lesser players or 3 lesser players that we can start is if we begin to get injuries and if depth actually does become a problem. But as it looks like for week 1, it's not going to be. So I don't want to be going out of our way to making that move right now. But let me know if you have any more questions. I would be happy to go ahead and try to address any more for you. But Mr. Dark Killer says, just curious in the chat, does anyone want to play in contract dynasty leagues? I think I played in a contract dynasty league back in like 2015, and it's just so much work. Like, I think if you're playing in one dynasty league and that's it, it can be fine to be a contract league, but you need a super dedicated commissioner. You need everybody fully bought in. And it may be a little bit tough, to be honest. Blake says, team name is Porp, checking in and submitted a review. Yes, sir. I'll check this out right after. Just waiting a little bit longer to see if Jake has any more questions that we can look at. This is closing in on 2 hours. I mean, we're over 2 hours. This has been the longest live stream we've done this offseason. And honestly, maybe it's the NFL draft giving me life, but I'm feeling energetic. The contacts are starting to dry out, but not the end of the world here. But I think I don't see any more questions from Jake, so we'll go ahead and mark that as complete. And let's check this out from Porp. Porp, can you let me know what your league ID is? If you don't know how to get to your league ID, go to Sleeper and in your URL, it will show it, or also in your league settings. But let me know your league ID. That way I can look at all the teams in your league, and that way I can actually try to come up with some specific trades for you. Jake, I wouldn't target Dart trade for Dart in the draft. You're a team that is looking to contend this year. I don't think you do it. I understand wanting to with Russ, but no, I don't think you can afford it. Blake says he can get that league ID. Is there anybody else in the chat waiting for a team review? Preston says Crackhead Capital. I don't know. Okay, Crackhead Capital. I will maybe get to this right now while we're waiting to get Porp's league ID. I don't see Crackhead Capital. What is your username on the site? Why is everybody sending their screenshots instead of their league IDs? Adrian says Team Adriana here if you can get to me. All right. Well, whatever I see first between that and Crackhead Capital. Okay. We're going to go with Adrian's team here. I'm a huge fan. Appreciate everything you guys do. I know we need another quarterback. Try to make a move for Geno cheap. Any other recommendations are appreciated. Okay, we got Njigbas with Dracos. Third team in the league analyzer. It is a 2-quarterback, 12-team start 10 PPR. So about the most standard dynasty you're going to find. This one's non-tight end premium. So again, I said we are the third team in the league analyzer. We don't need to be making too many adjustments when it comes to how we are structuring this team around the league settings. The adjustment that we need to be making right now, looking at this, however, is we don't have our own 2026 first. So we are highly incentivized to go ahead and contend right now. But with that being said, we're in a spot where it makes the most sense to contend right now anyway, right? Because we have a lot of value. Not only do we have a lot of value, but we also have some of these contending assets such as Derrick Henry. We're not wanting to build around them in the long term anyway. So we are looking to contend kind of regardless. And this is the exact kind of pick that we want to be looking at. We have the 106, which I know this is going to be super boring for us to tell you. And I wish that I maybe had a little bit more for you here, but like team needs a quarterback. We have Kyler Tua. So like bringing in Cam Ward, where it possibly pushes Kyler to QB2, possibly pushes Tua to QB3, just depending on how Ward actually performs. Obviously, it's very difficult to know at the quarterback position in particular, but you do have that kind of upside. Cam Ward fundamentally makes this a much better team for this year, or could, and he could also make it a much better team in the long term. Actually, I lied to you. We don't need him. We have Trey Lance. But going over to running back, just say Cam Ward does end up going at the 104. Cam Ward ends up going at the 105. And at that 106, instead, we're going to be looking at the Trevion Hendersons of the world, the Quinshon Judkins. I'm fine if you take either guy. Really up to you. I'd prefer Henderson in a full PPR, but that's just me. We go ahead and we add in a running back 3 where ETN may not necessarily be reliable. We add in that RB3. We have Brees, Derrick Henry, Trevion Henderson as 3 running backs that are actually able to move the needle right this second. We have Kyler and Tua, who we can start as QB1, QB2 this year. And then we have 5 wide receivers that we can reasonably get in. And then we have the viable tight end with TJ Hawkinson. Adrian says he's pretty sure Cam Ward will be there. Yeah, 2-quarterback, 12-team league. 106, I'm completely fine taking Cam Ward. I have Cam Ward. Definitely not in the tier with Hampton, Hunter, T-Mac. I don't have Ward either in the tier of like Henderson or Judkins. Let me know if you're hesitant to take Ward there, because in my mind for your team, I would love either one of the running backs, but also at the same time, I would love to bring in Cam Ward, and I would love to pair him up with Kyler and Tua. Just because you need a quarterback 3 regardless. I mean, especially if we're expecting that Rodgers ends up going to Pittsburgh, right? Where we can't necessarily rely on Mason Rudolph. Adrian says, in my mind, it's either Judkins or Ward. Can't make up my mind. It would be different if I didn't think that Ward could help you contend right now. But I think Ward could help you contend right now while at the same time giving you more long-term value. Because Judkins obviously would help you contend immediately. Like, I think Judkins you possibly have in your lineup by week 1, week 2, week 3. But Travis Etienne does dodge the NFL draft, where it looks like unless the Jags trade him for just a meaningless pick tomorrow, where this new coaching staff's just completely off of him, we don't know. It looks like Etienne may be viable as an RB3. We don't see anybody go to Arizona. So Trey Benson looks like he could actually be viable this year in a way that he wasn't last year. So you have plenty of running back depth. Obviously at wide receiver, we are chilling. We have by far and away the best wide receiver room in this league. Tight end, we are fine. Looking at the 209, one thing that we could explore the possibility of is looking at some of these garbage teams down here at the bottom and seeing if we could send like the 209 and pick up a contending piece. Like, this team here is clearly rebuilding. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 2026 first. Difficulty is going to be 209 doesn't get us to Godwin. Do we have like, would it be crazy? Josh Downs 209 for Godwin. But again, if we were moving the 209, yeah, I mean, it looks like expert rankings actually have Downs pretty much neck and neck with Godwin. So maybe if you were looking instead at that rebuilding team, just offering them Downs for Godwin straight up and seeing what they say. Worst thing they could say is no. Or Downs for Godwin and swap them the 209 with the 302. Let me refresh this and let's see something. Let's say we give this rebuilding team Downs. They give us Godwin. And at the same time, we toss them the 209. Ooh, sorry. Wrong pick. We toss them a late second. And we pick up just some depth pieces like White and Tajee Spears, right? So we have a little more running back depth. We have a wide receiver we could start this year. Saying that we slightly win this deal. Is there any other like small piece that we could toss their way to get this done? Toss them Brooks. I would go ahead and see if we could send them this, because realistically, that puts you in a position where guys like Rashad White, Tajee Spears, they may just fall in the range of like Trey Benson, where they're the most desperation starts ever this next season, but mainly they have upside as handcuff backs, where if the starters were to go down in front of them, you know, in a full PPR format, they're going to have the receiving roles as well, so you can actually get away with starting them. So it builds more running back depth beyond Breece, Derrick Henry, where you have like Travis Etienne, Trey Benson, Rashad White, Tajee Spears. Pivot from Downs as well to Chris Godwin. We don't particularly need the 209. We're looking to contend. You take Cam Ward 106. Our quarterback room, you have a lot of flexibility with it. I know you're saying you're thinking of taking the Saints quarterback late second. The thing is, you take Saints quarterback with that 209 pick. I don't even know if you're going to be able to start him at any point. Like, I have him there ranked in that late second round. But again, I don't know if you could. So, I mean, I would send that deal out that we talked about. Let me see if I can come up with any other ideas for you. Again, I think that this is just the most obvious team to try to trade with because they're so clearly wanting to rebuild. Let's see. This team here also looks like they're wanting to rebuild, or at least I would assume that they are. 209, if we could send that straight up for like DeAndre Swift, I think that would be interesting, right? Just given the fact that Swift does dodge all the competition today and yesterday. Again, I would definitely wait to make this move until at least I need to update Swift in my rankings, so it's going to be a big riser. Till after tomorrow to make sure that they don't end up taking like Scatterby or something. But I think trading that 209 and getting the running back depth piece, I think gives you the flexibility where if Cam Ward is there at the 106, you can take Cam Ward. But again, I mean, if Cam Ward ends up going at 5 and you want Judkins over Henderson, you can go ahead and you can make that move and then instead trade the 209. And if we can go back to some of these rebuilding teams, like this team's clearly rebuild and see if we send the 209 for Geno. But let me know if you have any other questions. I think you have a great team. I think it's very straightforward. Obviously, we want to build around this wide receiver core. And it just kind of comes down to how we're addressing running back depth and the quarterback position between our 2 rookie picks and a potential trade. So I think that's really the only thing to discuss with this team. But yeah, let me know if you have anything else. Tim says, should Travis Hunter be the 101 in Superflex IDP leagues if he gets DB eligibility? I think it kind of depends on your IDP scoring format as well as your roster settings. But I would assume, yeah, in IDP leagues, if you can start Travis Hunter as the defensive back and he's going to get you wide receiver points, he would have to be 101. Yeah, in this scenario, you absolutely have to take Hunter 101, of course. Okay. Adrian says, pretty much sums it up. Really appreciate my guy. Just still torn on Judkins or Ward. Not a fan of Ward in real life. Yeah, if you don't like Ward in real life, no worries not taking him. Just my personal take, I'm sure you've heard this a bunch, is I just don't trust myself at all when it comes to these quarterback evaluations. So I just typically am going to lean into whatever the NFL tells us. And if the NFL tells us that this guy's going to be good, I'm just going to go ahead and listen to him. I'm going to assume that he's going to be good. Okay. I don't know why your message got stuck here. But Blake gives us his league ID. Let's go ahead and let's copy and paste this for you, my friend. And don't worry. I know I just showed your league ID on the screen, but I don't think anybody can do anything with that. Well, I guess they can link your league on the site as well. So maybe if you don't want them viewing your league, I'm sorry I outed you, but I think it should be fine. Let's go ahead and let's add a new league. And by the way, if you don't know how to add your leagues to the site, just go to the My Teams page, copy and paste your sleeper ID, hit submit. This is completely free. Anybody can do this. The only way that you wouldn't be able to do this, I mean, the only thing you can't do on this page is like you can go here and you can sort by specific creators' rankings, right? So you can look at my rankings values and how I value your league, or you can look at the average expert. I'm up to, specifically now, I would definitely use mine if you're a paid subscriber, just because I'm updating mine, I think, more often than anybody else's. So actually, yeah, I'm going to update this with my rankings right now. But Blake, let me know what your team name is as well. Let me know if you have any questions with this, or I can just go ahead and I can find your initial message here, right? This was Porp. Okay. Let's go ahead and let's hook Blake up with some free start set questions, just in case he wants to follow up with anything later on. And let's pull this up. He is the Alien Space Jockeys. We are 9th in the league analyzer. Not a super uneven league. We're about 11,000 points off top team, 5,000 points off bottom team. This is going to be okay, it's not pulling in because we're not on stream mode. Blake, can you let me know how many players you have to start in your league? And also I'm going to assume that this is, yeah, it's pulling in Superflex rankings. So just confirm that this is a Superflex league and let me know how many players you got to start. And if this is a Superflex league, my friend, I do not think we can contend. Obviously, we have some really exciting assets that we can build around for the long term here. I mean, where we have Burrow, we have London, we have Vlad. Like, none of these are players that you have to sell on a rebuilding roster. But realistically, if you needed to contend here in a Superflex format, we're behind the 8 ball at running back. Jalen Warren doesn't look startable now that you actually have a running back coming in that can take a bunch of volume. Warren will still have a role for sure. But he's not startable. Pollard is probably your running back 1 week 1. Charbonnet, Warren are your RB2, RB3. Dalton Schultz is your tight end 1. Derek Carr is not going to start, and he's our quarterback 2. And at the same time, we have the 107. Like, if we were sitting here with the 102 and we can make a bunch of trades, trade down, pick up additional assets, I'm game. But the 107, realistically, we're in the top 7 picks. That's where we need to be. But top 7 picks, we go ahead and we walk away, say, with Judkins or Henderson. Like, we get one of the last guys in this here, or we get Cam Ward. Cam Ward would be the absolute best case scenario with this team. Like, if somehow, some way, a team in your league decides that they want to go ahead and they want to take Matthew Golden, right? And we end up getting our choice between like Cam Ward and Henderson, Cam Ward and Judkins. The absolute dream is for us to take Cam Ward because we need a quarterback anyway for this season. And at the same time, obviously, we have that long-term appeal with Cam Ward when it comes to his value, so he gives us all the flexibility in the world. But long story short, 107 is a really good spot to be in terms of the pick that you were going to get prospect-wise. But when it comes to like solving our issues where we kind of need 2, like if Tony Pollard's our running back 3 on a contending team, I'm okay. If Charbonnet's our running back 4, if Jalen Warren's our RB5, I'm happy about this. But Pollard's our RB1, Charbonnet's RB2, like, even if we add in Judkins, we're still not getting there at running back. We're still behind the 8 ball at running back. And we have 1 quarterback. We have Joe Burrow, and that's it. And we have no tight end, and we have no wide receiver. So your path at this point is either you have to start trading away your future picks. You have to trade away your 2026 first to just have a shot at being a contending team. Well, really the only time you want to trade away your 2026 first, unless you're going to put yourself in a super compromising position, is in the scenario in which you're a juggernaut roster and you know you're going to be a contender no matter what. But let's say you take Judkins 107, you trade away your 2026 first for Barkley. On paper, or you trade away your 2026 first, you need a quarterback. You trade away your future first and you get Baker Mayfield, which would be great value. I'm not telling you not to do that, but I'm just saying in this scenario, then Burrow goes down with the torn ACL, or Drake London or Ladd McConkey or any of your top options. You're in a position at that point where you can't contend and you don't have your 2026 first. So you're a rebuilding team with no future first and you can't accrue value. So trading away your future picks would put you in a super compromising position with this team. The 107 is a great pick, but it's not going to solve all the issues we need if we wanted to be a contender. So I think you have to pivot to a rebuild. And if we're pivoting to a rebuild, we are selling any asset that we don't think has a high probability of increasing in value over the next 12 months, the same way that a 2026 pick would increase in value over the next 12 months. So looking at this, am I worried about Burrow's value going down the toilet? No. Do I think he can skyrocket in value? Probably not. So, I mean, yeah, if you could tear down from Burrow to like Caleb Williams and pick up 2 extra first, of course we're doing that. Not even thinking twice. Obviously, it'd be robbing the man. But outside of robbing somebody and pivoting down from Burrow, we're probably just holding on to Burrow, and we're going to be trying to just retool for 1 year, because this is a team that's good enough where if we retool in 1 season, we could reasonably contend in 2026. Derek Carr, he has absolutely no value right now. I mean, if Derek Carr ends up getting traded to like the Pittsburgh Steelers and you're able to flip Derek Carr and Cortland Sutton, go get a future first, we do it in a heartbeat. But as it stands right now, you can't sell Derek Carr. You'd have to wait until we get some positive news blurb, and then hopefully at that point you can offload. Tony Pollard, almost no matter what happens this next season, he will be worth less 12 months from now than he is today. Maybe he's worth more during the season. Maybe he's worth less. We don't know, but I know 12 months from now he's going to be worth less than he is today. So Pollard, great example. If you can sell him for a second and a third, especially with the fact that he kind of won the NFL draft right now, hasta la vista, baby. He's gone. Give me that second and the third. Zach Charbonnet, wider range of outcomes, of course, because if you end up finding him in a situation where he can be a lead back next offseason, then at that point you could see that value go up. But again, you're taking on a lot of risk. I would say almost the same thing. You can sell Zach Charbonnet on a rebuilding team for a second and a third right now, we're doing it. If we can sell Jalen Warren for a future second, we're doing it. If we can sell Trey Benson for a future second, we're doing it. If you can package together any of these running backs and a 2-for-1 deal and get a future first, we're doing it. Because again, if you're able to go through, if you're able to sell off enough of these running backs where you go into the season with Trey Benson, Jordan Mason as your running back 1, running back 2, you're putting yourself in a really good spot to earn the 101 next year and to be able to add the 101 to a team with Joe Burrow, to a team with, I mean, if you can get to like Cam Ward somehow, beautiful. A Drake London, Ladd McConkey, and you can really contend. I think London, Ladd, guys that we can go ahead and we can hold on to. If you wanted to see if you could sit in London and pick up like the 105 and an extra piece, I think that could be very interesting. Let's go ahead and let's pull up the trade calculator and see exactly what piece we could get. The reason I'm saying the 105 again is I think that this is going to be the range where you could be looking at one of Hampton, Hunter, Tet, or Cam Ward. So it'd be a super appealing price to move off of London if we can get an additional asset on top of this, right? So we need to go ahead and move this over. Alien Space Chunky. So let's find who the 105 is, the 106 is, and see what trades we can try to cook up with them. This team has the 103. Who has the picks? This team has the 105. All right. And it looks like they're in a range where maybe they're planning on contending. I don't know. A little bit of an awkward spot. They have Derrick Henry here. But I mean, if you can send London, get back the 105. Actually, I realistically, I don't even know what you could do. Like, getting Harrison in return, maybe like we send London in the 107 to move up, get the 105 and Harrison. If you think that the 105 actually does get us Ward and instead the 107 is going to be like Judkins. Like rebuilding roster, I probably prefer Cam Ward and Marvin Harrison over Judkins and Drake London. It's not a super appealing deal though, just because I don't know if we can call it a no-brainer. Pivoting down to the 106, you're looking at like the Travion Henderson, the Judkins range. You're just going to get with the 107. We could get a quarterback. I don't think you're going to be able to get to Bo Nix, but Jordan Love may be in play. But the difficulty is I don't necessarily know if this team's going to be able to contend. Can we look at what team had the 104? But once you get to the range of like the 104, I don't really know if we're going to be able to get a lot on top of a London type player. Especially from this roster where they are sitting here with the additional future first. Maybe if we can convince this team that if this team views like Ashton Genty coming in, changing their running back core while at the same time them getting London, make them good enough from a receiver perspective, I already know that it's going to be a no-brainer. But just trying to just put this on paper and see what we could do to balance this out. Like, obviously, if you could sell London for the 104 and Worthy, I'm doing it. Is this a possible trade you can make? Can y'all please let me know in the chat? If you were a rebuilding team, would you rather have London or Worthy in the 104? Blake says, I shot Pollard for a second before the draft and didn't get any hits. Yeah, if I was a team that wasn't wanting to trade, I'm sorry, if I was a team before the draft, I wouldn't want to trade for Pollard either. But I think Pollard's a lot more appealing now after the draft, given the fact Tennessee Titans don't take a significant running back. Like, I think Pollard's a winner from the NFL draft. If I'm a contending team and I need a depth running back, I think I'm fine going Pollard. But I mean, if you could have this tier down going from like London to the 104 worthy, it's an absolute no-brainer. I think what you maybe have to do in that instance is I think you'd have to go ahead and attach some of your depth running backs here, such as like Tony Pollard. Again, you're really going to have this other team thinking that they are a contending roster to pull the trigger on a move like that. Another player that I think you are going to need to look to sell will be Sutton. I'm looking at the range that we have with the 207. 207, I think you're in a range that, I mean, you're just like pick 19 or like Trey Harris, Kyle Williams, maybe like Jalen Milroe falls. I think Milroe would be a perfect piece for a rebuilding roster, given the fact that if you were to start again in 2026, all of a sudden you actually do have an asset that we could put into our starting lineup for fantasy purposes. But again, these like third round drafted quarterbacks, he could be Hendon Hooker, right? He could just never have a shot. So if you wanted to take that 207 and try to package it with Sutton and get in a range where you are actually going to have access to that tier above, like get in a range where you have access to like a Jackson Dart, a Loveland, a Tyler Warren. So say like a mid-second in Sutton and try to get to the 111. Yeah. Or even the 112. I'd be fine with either deal. Because again, the main pieces that we are looking to move off of would be Sutton, the depth running backs in this instance. The 107, you're in a completely fine range. I think you just kind of go best player available. If we were moving up from a pick, it'd be that 207. Trying to get to a range where we can take one of those top rookie tight ends. But I think the main thing is we just have to look in the mirror and we just have to acknowledge that we're probably best off rebuilding. Or at least in my opinion, based off this team. And building specifically around London, Ladd, Burrow, the 107, almost rebuilding everything else and trying to structure it in a way where we're in the 101 in 2026. But please let me know in the chat, Blake, if you have any more questions. I'd be happy to try to help out any way that I can. And Benny, happy to see you, of course, my guy. And I know that somebody's probably told me in the chat a team name that they want me to look at. But if you had any teams submitted and you're waiting here for me to look at them, please let me know and I would be happy to do so tonight. And I'm also going to be live streaming all day tomorrow looking at teams. Lip Dub, Preston, please let me know, my guy, what your league ID is. Your league ID will look something like this, and it will be in the URL of your Sleeper. So just go to Sleeper, open up your league. If you're on the app, I think it'll be in your settings, but if you're on browser, it will just be in your URL. So let me know your league ID, and I'd be happy to go ahead and check out your team for you. Shanzi is here, so we're going to do this as we wait for Preston. Shanzi, appreciate you. Excited to check this out. Let me hook you up with a couple free trade questions. Just in case you see anything a little bit later on. Benny says, Mason, my dog, starting radiology school this year, so I don't know how much I'll be around this season, but regardless, I hope you win the big dog. Much love, my guy. I actually shadowed a radiologist for a bit, like 3 years ago. So that's a lie. It was 2019. Yeah, it was before COVID. So it was 6 years ago. Crazy. But seems like one hell of a life, my guy. So congrats. That's awesome. Happy for you. But let's check out this team for Shanzi. Say Mason, entering year 2 of this Dynasty League here with 3 first. 14-team league, so many teams don't have the depth. 14 teams start 9 Superflex leagues, so this is a serious-ass league. League doesn't seem to value rookies much. League was trade happy at the start, but a few teams made mistakes, and now people are skittish. How should we handle the draft? I think I can contend. So Where are we? There is Ozempic Gang is cooked to an extreme degree. RIP. We are here 10th in the league, Analyzer. Let's address some things real quick. For anybody who's not played in a 14-team Superflex league before, it will get ugly, specifically at the quarterback position. 10-team Superflex league, everybody can have 3 to 4 starting quarterbacks on average. 10 teams fighting for 32 quarterbacks. In a 14-team Superflex league, everybody's going to want 3 quarterbacks, and less than half the league will get them. It is going to be extremely difficult. Quarterbacks are going to get pushed up in rookie drafts. Quarterbacks are going to be harder to trade for as well. So when we're looking at these picks, like the 106, 107, please, Shanzi, let me know if your league's different than the 14-team Superflex leagues I've played in the past. But I would say almost there's no shot that Cam Ward's going to be there. Like, and we can just kind of get a sense. Let's go look at who has the 105. Let's try to find who has the 104. And let's look at their quarterback rooms. And let's just try to map this out real quick. Okay. The team with the 103 needs a third quarterback. The team with the 104 has Matthew Stafford, Derek Carr, Drew Lock. Yeah. So Cam Ward's not going to be there, right? He's not. Preston, do you mind just sending it one more time? I don't see it still. So Cam Ward's not going to be there. But honestly, for us, it's not the end of the world. We're sitting with Drake May and we're sitting with Kyler Murray. So we aren't in the position in which we need to stress about getting Cam Ward or not. A lot of teams in 14-team Superflex leagues, they will have that stress. But we are in the absolute perfect position where we have 2 top 7 picks, which is exactly where we want to be. And what does our team need? We need running backs. Ramondre just got absolutely nuked. We are ranked 14th in the league analyzer, dead last for running back value in this league. We go ahead, look 106, 107. We have Henderson, Judkins, 2 running backs that, I mean, in my overall rankings at the moment, I have them both as top 10 dynasty running backs day one. I think both have top 14 upside in year one from a points per game perspective. They have the extended shelf lives. So reasonably, we can go ahead very easily, very comfortably. Just take Judkins, Henderson, 106, 107. If one of the running backs goes ahead of Tet, if one of the running backs goes ahead of Travis Hunter, and we end up getting Travis Hunter or Tet McMillan at 106, 107, cool, even better. I'll take the top 10 wide receiver. But regardless, you're in the top 7 picks, so you're in a great spot to just assume that we kind of get Judkins, Henderson, 106, 107. Ramondre's our RB3 at that point, which in a 14-team league, to be an RB3, you have to be a top 42 running back. Ramondre has a shot to be a top 42 running back. Rigo Dowdle possibly can be a top 56 RB, which is what you need to be a top 4 running back in a 14-team format. So our running back room can be fine literally day one drafting those 2 guys. Going over and looking at receiver, we're going to be sitting with Higgins, Rice, Rome, DJ Moore. So I would say NFL draft screws our team. Like rookie picks, it helps perfectly with the way that the tiers get cut. But when it comes to what we're going to be looking at with the wide receivers and running backs, Ramondre got nuked. Rome and DJ Moore have both the top 10 tight end coming in, and at the same time, they have Luther Burden. So, yeah. Both wide receivers get a hit in value, but still you have 4 startable receivers here. So with the 2 quarterbacks, with the 2 running backs, we can assume we get 106, 107. The 4 receivers, and then the tight end, we have our Cert 9 format filled out, and then we still have the 109. So 109, you have a lot of flexibility. If we go ahead and we look at the players that are going to be here, Matthew Golden, Igbuka, Loveland, Tyler Warren. It's a non-tight end premium format. I know like we're not super strong with Ferguson, Gesicki, Sennett, but to be honest with you, I don't particularly care. I think you just kind of go best player available with either Matthew Golden or Igbuka. Another possibility is if you wanted to try to get to that 105, if you wanted to try to get yourself the 3 picks inside the top 7, I think it'd be easier, of course, if we had like the 105, 106, and we just have to trade up to the 107. That'd be much better. 109 to 105 is definitely a little bit more of a jump. But if you wanted to try to make that jump, where say you send the 109, 209, and 212 to get to the 105, I would love that, because then effectively you're trading like Matthew Golden, the 209, 212s, pick 23 and 25 in a 14-team league. So like Terrence Ferguson and Jalen Knoll to go get up to like a Cam Ward, or to get to Travis Hunter. So if possible, I would love to go out there 109, 209, 212, try to move up to the 105. Again, much, much, much easier said than done. If not, I think you're completely fine to just go ahead and pull the trigger if you like one of those tight ends that did go in round 2 of the draft, whether that was, say, Mason Taylor or Terrence Ferguson. You can take a depth receiver. All in all, I'd probably prefer the depth running backs. It's just going to be difficult for me to go through and say like, oh, we want Tootin here, we want Sampson here, we want Giddens here, we want Neal here, because we don't have the landing spots. We don't have the draft capital for these guys yet. The only way Hunter falls to 109 is if your league mates just don't know what they're doing, at least in my mind. Trying to think of realistic. You should contend. A 14-team league, you are a contending roster once you bring in those 2 running backs, 106, 107. I'm not wanting to trade away my 2026 first, but another possibility that you can have is if we're not able to move up from the 109, 109 I still probably want to just take best player available there and just go ahead and take that wide receiver. But the 209, 212, 308, 313, I think this would be the range where I'm fine starting to sell off some of these picks and seeing if we can bring in the depth running backs. Again, going through and looking at some of the teams at the very bottom here. If this team's fine waving the white flag and understanding that they should be a rebuilder, I'm going through and sending one of those late second rounders that's going to turn into the player. Maybe it turns into Jalen Knoll. Just going and sending that for Brian Robinson. I think that'd be completely fine. Like sending your 209 for B-Rob. Even if we can try to offload some of these at the same time, 209 and 212. Hell, and 308. Try to bring in both B-Rob and Evans from the rebuilding team. I'm just going to start sending out this junk to these rebuilders. Go try to send your 3rd for Rashad White. This team that has Geno, Russ as their top quarterbacks. I'm assuming that they're looking to rebuild as well. Go start trying to offer some seconds for like Kamara and Pacheco. So I think plan A is trying to take your second rounders and your 3rds and going and moving from the 109 to the 105. That way you can get that actual cornerstone asset that can help us contend both now and in the long term. Plan B is you just take the long-term receiver at the 109, whether that's like Igbuka or Golden, or obviously if a player falls, you take the player that fell. And then at the same time, we turn around and we try to take these later picks that we have and we try to send them over to rebuilding rosters to just bring in these players that maybe don't have a lot of long-term value where you can't really project them out in 2026 and beyond, but maybe are just kind of stop gaps for us where we're waiting for Judkins and we're waiting for Henderson to really start producing. But let me know in the live chat if you have any additional questions. And again, I did hook you up with some free start sit vouchers as well. So if you have anything, some free trade question vouchers as well. So if you have anything ever at any point of the off season, I'd be happy to look at those for you. But Yeah, let me know if you have anything else in the chats. But I really do appreciate you as well and hope I was able to help you out in some way here. But I'm going to mark that as complete. And let's see. Preston says that he sent it twice. I don't know if he's sending his league ID in the YouTube live chat or if he's sending it in the chat on the site. So let me pull up Preston's team review on the site and see if we can find anything here. Okay. Little up. Okay. Preston, I see you sent me some messages on the site. I'm just going to go ahead and respond to you there. But I think that's all I got for y'all. Yeah, Preston, look for the message on the site that I'm going to send. I'm going to be live streaming all day tomorrow, looking at teams. I'll be live streaming at the same time the NFL draft's going. Maybe we start at 9 or so. But again, ladies and gentlemen, appreciate you hanging out with me so late. It's not too late on the West Coast here. It's not even midnight yet. But I know on the East Coast, if anybody's watching this, you got to get to bed. Please, I'll just catch you tomorrow. And then, yeah, I'm going to be trying to get to every single review I can tomorrow. Just because I know that obviously people have rookie drafts coming up very, very soon. And I want to make sure that we can try to give as much advice as we can. But much love, ladies and gentlemen. Really do appreciate you and really hope I can catch you out tomorrow.